What's going on, guys? It's Nathan. Welcome to episode. Just kidding. This is a little like one and done issue. Kind of. I mean, until I probably play more games. PS5 era. Let's go. But this is a good one, I think. I didn't get a chance to do my gameplay recordings because my technology actually sucks. But it was, I got the big important reveal toward the beginning of the game anyway. And this is a full spoiler review, by the way. If you're tuning in, if you didn't pick up by the title and the thumbnail. Spoilers.
Yeah, big spoilers.
We're going to be breaking down the whole, our kind of like our experience, our thoughts on the entirety of The Last of Us Part 2, which is really interesting to get into, and especially to get into our different mindsets, because I'm pretty new to The Last of Us franchise as it is, like only like getting into it this year, whereas Evan has played it many a year. So
many a year, yes.
Exciting time.
Yeah, I've been in the Last of Us world since it came out in, I think it was July or June 2013. I forget the exact release date, but I remember it got delayed or whatever. But July or June 2013, I got it on the PS3, glued to it. I was already a huge Naughty Dog fan ever since I was a kid. I loved playing the Jack and Daxter games. Wasn't a huge fan of Crash, but Jack and Daxter was my thing. And then Uncharted really became like my bread and butter on the PS3. And then came Last of Us. Then I fell in love with Last of Us. Last of Us remastered for the PS4. And then Last of Us 2. The hype is there, and I'm super happy to say I loved this game. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was interesting for me. Initially, I bought The Last of Us remastered like one or maybe two Black Fridays ago for like $5-7, which
wow,
a steal, honestly.
Yeah.
And then it was just kind of like sitting in my downloads forever. Like I never got to it because I'm such a slow gamer. I don't game much. I'm a film guy, but I knew 2 was coming out, and I was intrigued, and I wanted to. I think I pretty much played Last of Us 1 like a week prior to 2's drop.
I think you did, yeah.
And that was interesting. And also going into it was also interesting because like there was the whole big controversy from the leak of the game for 2, which I didn't check anything out. But just hearing people's critiques, I was just like not actually hearing it, but just like the rumbles just made me think we're probably in a Last Jedi situation. I'll probably like it.
I was super nervous because when those leaks came out, and I freaking hate leaks. Well, I hate certain leaks. Like I'm all about like Star Wars leaks. Like I can handle some of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to video games, something I'm super invested in, I really kind of want to stay away from all that. So when the game leaked 2 months prior to release, I was super upset. I was pissed. So I muted everything Last of Us, even though I didn't want to, because there was a lot of marketing and a lot of interviews leading up to the game that I kind of want to be involved in or listen up on or read. But it's kind of hard to do when everything's muted. So I just had to face the facts. Like I just had to mute all the tags on Twitter and everything, basically, kind of avoid it on the internet. And that kind of sucked, especially when all your friends on Twitter are saying like, like I'm passing on this game now. I'm like, what could possibly be in those leaks? Now, since this is a big spoiler review, I just want to cover it real quick. My friend finished the game. Or I finished the game. My friend asked me before he bought the game, saying like, "Are these leaks true?" And I had never heard the leaks. So when he told me what the leaks were, I'm like, "Okay, let's hear it." Like, I guess like, what were these leaks that people were so upset about? And most of those leaks were wrong.
What were some of the leaks? I don't think I heard.
It was so fascinating because so they one of them was like, Ellie dies at the end of the game. I think it says like Abby kills her at the end of the game. And I'm like, okay, that
maybe that's someone who just like failed the mission because I did. I was like, maybe they just rage quit. You don't
know. That's one of them. And then I think one said Ellie kills Joel. I think that was a big one. Like Ellie kills Joel early in the game. I think, which is kind of not right. I mean, Joel does die early in the game, but not to Ellie's hand. He dies to Abby's hands.
Maybe they were like trying to stitch together like fragment info, like they knew Joel died, but then they also knew Ellie was angry the whole time.
Exactly. So what people got out of it was like, oh, Ellie's just on a revenge mission. Joel dies. This game sucks. Which kind of is in the broad strokes. I hate to say it, but like, yeah, in the broad strokes, it is a revenge story, revenge plot, not really the story. And then Joel dies early, and people were super upset about that. So yeah, and that was pretty much it. I'm like, dude, you don't have to be afraid of any of those because most of those spoilers are wrong. Just play the game for yourself, see what happens. And guess what? He ended up liking it too. Just like us, yeah.
For my own opinions, I think it was a solid like 30 hours of gameplay.
I think so, which is pretty surprising because the first game was about, give or take, it took me 13 hours to beat my first Last of Us game. I always remember that, like 13 hours. And I take my time kind of thing. I was collecting stuff. But I think, 11 to 12 to 13 hours is kind of what you do for the first game. This game is double that and more, which is why I'm not surprised that it didn't come out with the multiplayer. The first Last of Us had a multiplayer called Factions. This one famously said last year that there was going to be no factions, even though they kind of backtracked now and they are making a factions online mode. But yeah, this is a 30 hours of gameplay, and it gripped me from hour 1 to hour 30 or however long it took me to beat this game.
Yeah, man, it really locks me in. We should like probably just like run through the game itself. Like I know, just starting off, like I think it started beautifully with the scene between Joel and Tommy.
Completely.
Telling about Ellie, like that was handled so great. Like I was just immediately, especially jumping from game 1 to 2 like that. I can imagine people who waited even longer were just like, "Whoa!" But
I was like, "Whoa, we're doing like a rehash!" Like,
yeah, but even me, just like freshly in, I was like, "Oh my god, this is heavy, dude!" Because it's the ending of the first game, just like the whole implication of it going on, is just crazy.
It's very important, Nathan. Other thing, straight from the jump, this game is inviting you to remember what you did at the end of Last of Us 1, because it has been 7 years. You might have forgotten, well, we did some dark stuff at the end of the game. And that's what people kind of forget. I don't want to say everybody, of course. This isn't a whole broad stroke statement. But most people kind of forgot, like, okay, Joel did some bad stuff at the end of the game. But narratively, Naughty Dog really let people get into Joel's shoes throughout that entire course of that 13-hour game. In the first Last of Us, we got into Joel's shoes. We got into his dynamic with Ellie. We got into like his tragic past with Sarah. So we understood by the end of the game, like, yeah, the main part of this game is to save the world. Use Ellie to save the world. That's what we always wanted. But we kind of sympathized with Joel, and we also wanted to kill everybody to save Ellie by the end of the game, because for the players and for Joel, Ellie's life was more than every single person in the hospital. So when we had to kill everybody, it was cool for us. It was a cool level. We did what we had to do. But straight from the jump on The Last of Us 2, it's inviting us to remember what we did, in that, just like The Last of Us Part 1, there's going to be a lot of perspectives. And that really is going to be the driving force behind The Last of Us 2 going forward.
Yeah, and that's something they really like explore, is like with the first game, you know, you think like, yeah, you're definitely like screwing over this entire hospital, but in the grand scheme of things in 2, you realize, no, you didn't just screw over the hospital, you screwed over the world of a cure.
The world.
Not just now, but of future people as well. That's all of humanity's future history gone.
Yeah, that last level has so many freaking crazy implications. Like you just said, Nathan, the whole world has changed because of Joel's one decision, as well as there's people in the hospital had lives. Like, I famously like showed you a video of I'll probably tweet it out after this. My video of Joel killing everybody in the hospital to save Ellie from that surgery.
What, you use a flamethrower? I
used I always go back and forth whenever I do the game. But in the video, I use a flamethrower. I think I used a shotgun. Might have used an arrow here and there to kill everybody, just to increase the tension, you know.
Oh, but they weren't random people, were they?
No, they weren't. Oh no. I think, what was the doctor's name from this game? Abby's father's name is like John, I think.
Yeah.
John or Josh. It doesn't sound like a Josh. I'm pretty sure it's John. I could be completely wrong. Starts with a J, I think. Anyways, doesn't really matter. It kind of does matter, but for Abby at least. But either way, yeah. So it's like, man, these people had lives, but also as we get into the very last line in The Last of Us 1, we also changed Ellie's life forever too. And that's a big thing going forward for this game in particular, because one of my favorite moments in the game, I mean, there's so many great moments in the first game, but when she asked him, like, tell me the truth, what happened, or like, I forget the exact quote now. Like she asked him, like, was everything you said the truth? And he's like, yes. And she's like, okay. And even with that, okay, you're like, does she really believe him? But then it clips up to the ending of the game. So you don't really get to breathe into Ellie's whole process of what has happened to her. Of course, in that very last level of the game, you're all slow. You're kind of pondering. You're kind of shy. And Joel's very excited because he saved Ellie. But yeah, and then that leads straight into this game where she's still processing what happened to her in that hospital.
And I feel like the easiest way to like flow the discussion of the story is probably to discuss it chronologically. So I want to dive into the flashbacks, which were all great moments, and great to have more time with Joel. Like the whole birthday museum chapter,
perfect.
Is so good. I loved exploring all the dinosaurs, because I got a lot of Jurassic Park references, which was
dinosaurs.
Dino DNA. But it was so fun. I was like going through. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I like that you got a mirrored giraffe moment with a hat on a dinosaur.
With the hat on a dinosaur, that's really sweet.
I was watching another guy play the game too, and unfortunately, like there's some moments you can miss when you play that because
totally
he didn't do what I did, which was I was like, I hope I can do this. And you like on the outside in the beginning, you can climb up the T-Rex, and
he didn't climb up the T-Rex.
No, he didn't, but I did.
I did too.
I went to go watch him, and I was like, oh, you missed it. Like he ran straight past the Joel, and I was like, no, come back. You can cannonball, and you can do it multiple times.
Oh, you did do it multiple times?
I did it twice. Yeah.
Wow, I just did it once.
I was like, well, let me do it again. Oh, it does. I was trying to use photo mode because it was so cool, but it wouldn't let me change my angles because it was locked in a motion.
Yeah,
but
in general, I love how these flashbacks go from like the happiest of times to the worst of times, and it was definitely the happiest of times with this flashback because it's very sweet, it's very kind, it's very happy. Speaking of Jurassic Park, it's very funny how Joel apparently doesn't like the sequels. I think he said he like the first one. The sequels kind of get worse or something.
Yeah, like they made another one.
Wasn't that good?
I know they got to the Pompeys, which was the dinosaurs at the opening of Lost World. I was like, oh my god. And I was like, I like it.
So yeah, it's really funny getting into Joel's taste in movies in general in this game.
Another thing that he unfortunately missed, because I think what he was trying to do is see if you can get an achievement for putting a hat on every dinosaur, and I don't think he actually did, which sucks because after you put it on like the first two dinosaurs, you have an option to
put it on Joel.
And I did, and it was like boom, another dinosaur.
I didn't actually put it on Joel my first playthrough. I didn't get the trophy. I was looking through the trophies I missed. I'm like, oh, I didn't put it on Joel. Weird. So I didn't know I was allowed to. But
that's what I was hoping for the most. I was just like, I'll do it for Joel. Cool. And then there's another hat you can find. It's like, yes, which you can then wear. Yeah. To have your own hat while Joel tosses his onto the dinosaur instead of taking it off of Ellie.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I really love that. That whole level so much. It's so cool.
Oh, it's great. And it keeps going too, because I was just like, I thought we were gonna leave off on the happy moment, but then they're trying to
me too,
reverse through another form, and then there's just like this horrific writings all over the in that
dude. It was crazy because we go from that awesome moment of her envisioning going up to space. It gets very visceral.
I jumped that by accident. Hold on, because we were doing the dinosaurs, and I was like, okay, cool, and I just thought that's what it was gonna be. I was like going around too. I was like, this museum is actually pretty fun. I miss the world. I'm in a pandemic. I miss things.
I miss going to museums too.
Right, and then like I turned the corner and I was like, all right, what we got? And then like it shifts to like stars and space, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. This is incredible.
Is Pluto a planet here? I don't know.
And they kind of tease this like implementation in The Last of Us what was it called? The Left Behind DLC. And when she's with Riley, like there's a level where there's this arcade game that's broken, and Ellie's like, "Oh crap, it's broken. I can't play it." But when she goes to play for it, Riley's like, "Close your eyes and let's imagine that we're playing it." And she kind of imagines it, and it's really cool because then it's the same thing that happened with the spaceship. She closes her eyes and she imagines she's going into space.
Dude,
it's very cool.
It gets so good because you get to explore like all the individual things, and Ellie spouting like all of these facts.
Yeah.
So into it, you get to put on the astronaut helmet and stuff, sit in the rover. Everything's cool. And then you actually, it was funny too because I was watching the dude play, and he like beeline straight to open the hatch. But like Joel stops you, like, "Oh, hold on, you gotta get a helmet.
You need a helmet."
I mean, cool. You unlock more dialogue, but I was just like, no, I'm gonna get a good helmet.
Yeah.
And then like you sit in, and it's already cool that they're sitting in there. But then he hands her the mixtape, and I was just initially thinking like, what cool track could we play? Because this could be really fun. I wonder what song they'll have, and it's not a song. It's like a full actual NASA countdown for a launch. And I was like, brilliant.
That's amazing. How Joel got that, man.
Oh my god.
Father of the year right here. Oh man.
Maybe he found it within the museum for all we know. But
yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's so cool.
But yeah, then we continue and it's just a nice moment. And even like when you get out of the hatch, he even gives her a little pin like welcome to her.
Which stays on her backpack for the entire game. I'm like, oh man.
So
like when you get out of the flashback, you look back at your backpack, you're like, oh, so this is where, oh man, and the feels come again.
Everything.
Yeah. In that flashback, it gets pretty dark because then like Ellie has to go into the other museum because she wants to explore some more. And then that's when you realize, oh, wait, Ellie has a gun. And then like, if I have a gun, does that mean there's like enemies around? Like gamer logic means like, okay, enemies are going to be on my butt here soon. And then you can pick up ingredients. You're like, okay, if I'm picking up ingredients, then there has to be enemies. And I love that because it really tricked us into thinking something is going to come. And then you're walking, then a boar comes out of nowhere. And it's just,
I was like, oh my God, dinner. But no, it is like, but it like schooled past. But that like, it sets up like right after you go through all these creepy writings of the wall of like not just like people that are suffering, but like people who made people suffer. I'm just like, oh god, this is disturbing. Like if a clicker comes right now, I'm scared because my lights are off.
I think I was playing that at night as well, man. It was super scary. I think I played all of Last of Us at night or towards the afternoon. But yeah, and then that whole like you said, the whole writing on the wall culminates in the Firefly symbol. So the guy that went crazy was related to the Firefly, and I think it says like liar or lies.
Yeah,
correctly. And then
fire lies.
That's when Ellie really looks at herself. Reminds herself again because it's always been in her head what happened at the hospital. She's like, I think something kind of happened there.
And I think that's really like the first step of it too. I feel like that because we're playing all the way through, and she's just like super happy with Joel. But as soon as she connects the writing with the symbol, it's just like
she remembers. Mm-hmm.
And it continues forward with other flashback stuff. I think in congression with everything.
I think the one afterwards is a Tommy flashback, right?
Yeah, but also she's already also uneasy with Joel at that point too.
She is, yeah.
And they're apprehensive. No, but I think that
this is before the scene
too, because that's her. She was still questioning in that point if there was possible for a cure or anything, because she felt so bad that these two teens that ran away got infected.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the beginning of that flashback, she's already kind of distant with Joel. You kind of get that through the dialogue with Tommy.
And I mean, you could probably just chalk that up to just like teenagers being distant anyway.
Totally. So I'm like, okay, yeah, Ellie's growing up to be a teenager. This is kind of what you would expect. She's going away from the father figure. It's kind of like, it's not cliche, but it's kind of what you would expect.
Sure.
But then, but we know for Ellie, something's always deeper. It's something inside her head. And towards the end of that whole flashback sequence, which was crazy. The whole flashback I really liked, the whole shooting with Tommy. But then when you go with Joel into the hotel to try and like cut through, I forget what they were looking for. I think they were trying to go to a music store or whatever.
Yeah, they were getting guitar strings.
Yeah, get guitar strings. And the whole hotel sequence with the bloater was insane.
Yeah, dude, that was scary. He kept running.
Super scary. He kept running.
And I did bloaters before, man, but this one was just hellbent.
This one was not going. Yeah, I played it on my Survivor playthrough. I nearly ran out of bullets. Like all my bullets were gone. I wasted a Molotov. It was crazy. It grabbed me. I thought I died, but then that's part of the cutscene because Joel grabs his like machete, cuts it part of its arm off, uses his shotgun and kills it. It's pretty awesome.
Oh man, I was trying so hard, man. I was glad I grabbed a couple of supplies before I actually left the place where Tommy was, because otherwise I would not have made it. I was like, I need these Molotovs, man. Even then, I almost died.
Yeah, it was tough.
It's crazy the whole playthrough though. Currently, I should play harder difficulties because I was on like the easiest one because I'm there for story.
They gave you so many supplies, I bet.
No, yeah, they did, but I play like I'm apprehensive of using anything, so I have like all these supplies, most of it, and I'm just like I keep going, and there's just like I could look around for more supplies, so I'm just like, no, I'm just beelining for the next position. So I don't really go around for collectibles often, but then I did get to a point in the game where I was just like, all right, well, I'm fine then. Like, I'll just unleash hell on everybody and just try to progress faster. But also, I was in the mindset of not collecting stuff, so I got to a point where I was stuck. I was like, oh, God. I screwed myself over on that one.
I see what you mean. But yeah, by the end of that flashback, the second flashback, again, as you're going with Joel, you kind of read some of the letters, and it's about letters of people kind of leaving. And then it culminates again in the reveal that the two people that apparently had left Jackson like a year or two earlier ended up in this hotel and ended up dying.
And I think they weren't even like that far gone, maybe like a couple hours.
Because then this is where Joel and Ellie are just doing some rounds around Jackson. So of course they couldn't have gotten far.
Yeah.
And then I think like the guy in the flashback or the guy in the story says like, I killed my girlfriend, but I couldn't kill myself. And then that's the person that Joel ends up stomping on. But then again, it's revealed about Elliot again asks Joel, okay, one more time, where you said that there was a lot of people like me. You said that the cure was impossible. How did you know? Why didn't you just wake me up inside the hospital and stuff like that?
And Joel just like goes definitively angrily too that there was no cure, and he like reiterates throwing it back to her if like she really wants to ask again, and she's like no. He's like good. He just says good and moves on. It's like, oh my God, this is intense, man. And
it's crazy. I think because at that moment Ellie was like, okay, I'm never, this is like twice or three times now, probably more that we didn't even see, of Joel kind of like canceling the conversation. So I think at that moment Ellie was like, you know what, if he's not going to give me anything, I got to find the answers for myself. And that's exactly what she does in the next flashback.
Yeah, and then the next flashback, you're going around the hospital, and it's the same passageway that you... It's amazing that you get to play Joel's perspective from the first game in multiple characters.
Oh, incredible storytelling, right, dude? Like,
so good.
You see it through Joel, you see it through Ellie, but then mostly you see it through Abby.
You do, and we will definitely be touching on that.
You definitely have to, yeah.
You're going through with Ellie, and she's like looking, and she finds like her own X-rays and stuff.
Yeah.
Reads a couple doctor's notes, and like the notes were like she was ready to go. Like everything was set. It was very positive. Everything looked good, but it's also abandoned. There's just stained blood everywhere.
Yeah. Like I played the game one time. On my second playthrough, I haven't gotten to this flashback yet. Does Ellie read does she like listen? She listens to the video, right? Of like the videotape saying that she had to die. Audio recorder, yeah. And doesn't it say like the girl might have to die, but like she is our cure, something like that? And that's when Joel strolls in.
Yeah, because she's like playing it back over and over and like rewinding at the very specific point. But then when he's coming in the distance, and he's just like he's so scared. He's so fatherly when he gets there too. He's just like, you can't just run off like that. You got to tell me. Like, he hugs her.
This is one of the toughest scenes in the game. Yeah,
it's so good, and she calls the bluff again one final time, and like no lies, just like seriously tell me or I am gone forever. And Joel really does take a second to muster the courage to say it, which
Because Joel was ashamed about it too. He killed a lot of people in the hospital, but he did it out of love for her. Just like we loved Ellie by the end of the first game, so we can kind of relate to both of these characters.
And I totally get why Joel does it, man, because he already lost his daughter once.
1,000, 1,000,000,000%. He didn't want to go through that. We didn't want Joel to go through that in the first game as players. But at the same time, because we're so invested in Ellie, so much so at this point in Last of Us Part 2, we kind of understand her pain as well. And she's like, when Joel tells her, like, they would have killed you. But he like confirms her suspicions, like you were the cure. And then that's when she starts like hyperventilating. And it's
and initially she's just kind of like taken aback, but then as soon as she sits down, she just loses it, because that's just the worst form of survival guilt turned to 11. It's just, God, how could anybody hear such news that you could have saved the world with your life, but somebody else took that away?
Somebody else took that away, and it's so funny because
it's not even your choice.
Exactly. And the actor who plays Joel, Troy Baker, had he was playing The Last of Us 2 with the famous voice actor Nolan North from Uncharted. And they were playing Last of Us Part 2. When they got to the ending, they asked Troy, what did you perceive with that ending? And he had a different take from most people, where he said, like, Joel was kind of evil because he took away Ellie's, like, meaning. He took away what gave her life meaning, what she thought would give her life meaning. And at that point in the game, but this was way before Last of Us 2 came out, I'm like, okay, that's an interesting take. But I guess because he kind of like filmed Last of Us 2 already, that's kind of exactly the point that Ellie is struggling with. Like,
she says as much by the scene.
Yeah, she's like, my life's meaning throughout the whole first game was to cure the world, and you took that away from me. And I'm like, oh, it hurts. It hurts because for Joel, Ellie, as a human, as an individual person, gave his life meaning, and he couldn't take that away from himself. So it's very selfish, but understandable. And that's what this game, this whole world is so complex. And again, I'm saying this a lot in this review, but perspective, from Joel's perspective, Ellie gave his life meaning, and he couldn't let her be taken away from him.
Yeah, and she does declare in that moment, like, she'll go back.
Yeah,
but they're done. And
this is like a year before the events of this game. A year or two, I think.
I think it's 2. Yeah, I think it's
2 years.
I think she's 17 at that point.
Yeah.
So it's in between game 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's very short because she looks similar to how she looks in Last of Us 2.
Yeah, and I like that they have the distinct like designs for the age of difference, but it's still you get that semblance of the face, which is great. It's great that you can do that with CG. You keep your same character. It's interesting, like, breaking this down chronologically, because the next scene to follow that would be the dance with Ellie, Dina, and Jesse.
Oh yeah, which is so smart. They tease this dance throughout the beginning of the game. You're running along with Dina and Jesse.
I heard it was in trailers too.
It was in the trailer, not the very first. Kind of, I think the second reveal was at PlayStation. Was at E3. It was at E3. E3 2017, 2018, whatever. I don't care. But they showed the dance, and it's so cute and it's so cool. We're like, oh man, I love the whole scene. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the beginning of the game, right? They saved that. I think it was gonna be the beginning of the game actually, but then towards the development, they were like, let's just tease it in the beginning and then go back to it by the end of the game. But
yeah, because they dropped mentions of it.
They dropped mentions of it, saying Jesse's like, oh, so are you and Joel okay? He kind of pushed the bartender there. And you and Dina kissed? Like, what's going on? And Ellie's like, well, she kissed me.
Racist dude? Like,
yeah. Oh, man, it was so good. But yeah, chronologically, this is where we get to that scene and the whole dance. And I love it. It's just Ellie.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And it's bittersweet, too, because it's after everything that goes down with Jesse. And we'll get to that, too, but it sucks because I really like Jesse.
Fantastic character.
So I gotta put him in the thumbnail. Like,
yeah,
as a Force ghost. No, that's kind of
be with us.
That's kind of my semblance with the thumbnail idea here. Like, if you haven't played the game, you don't understand like how it is, and it's not like to say like everybody that died, because Dina's fine, probably, but
That's a good point. Yeah, we didn't include everybody that died in the thumbnail.
It basically is everybody who's like close to Ellie who's gone. Was my thumbnail spoiler, but hidden meeting, the commentary of the thumbnail.
And like we talked about before the show, the thumbnail is a picture, not thumbnail, but the whole start menu of the game before you complete the game, at least, is the ending of the game, which is so cool, like with the boats.
So great.
But yeah. So this flashback is a very cool flashback. The first time she first kisses Dina. She's had feelings for Dina before then, but
yeah, I was reading. The most thing I loved to read throughout the whole game was Ellie's journal entries.
Oh, they were so cool. Yeah, she's a quick drawer, but yeah,
yeah, quite like dinosaurs.
Yeah,
it was so funny. She was like drawing like the big T-Rex, like king of the lizards, and it's just like this big boy. Like,
yeah, I love her journal stuff.
Love that scene. I love the intimacy with her and Dina. It was just such a nice moment. Then the jerk comes in and it's like, great. But like I knew I wouldn't forgive it. Like I played the beginning of the game when he's apologized and I was like, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Except playing it here.
He calls him like the D word or something. I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
so and then Joel comes in like instantly, and it was funny because there was even like some entries like Ellie was even like asking herself if Joel would even be okay with how she is. Clearly he is, and it's fine. It
is so funny because like in that second flashback, Joel was asking Ellie like, "Are you close with Jesse? Jesse might like you," and we're like, "Joel, you're very far off right now."
It's funny. Even she's just like, "You got no idea."
Yeah, you have no idea.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, the flashback goes and like boom, instantly just swarming in is Joel and Tommy and Tommy's wife, Renee?
Maria.
Renee. My bad. There's a lot of characters in last one. But
there is, yeah.
It's just they were just like,
and then she has a whole argument with Joel because she's like, "I don't need you to protect me," and Joel's like,
"Yeah, he came in and make sure she was okay." And like on the surface, like a lot of people that just don't read into emotion or just instantly just like, "What's Ellie's problem?" Like Joel's so great.
but by the time we got to this part of the flashback, we nearly finished the game, so we understood why Ellie wasn't talking to Joel. Yeah, like we said, like this was the first time they've actually spoken to each other since that previous flashback in Utah at the hospital. So they have that argument. And then we'll see later that night that they have another talk.
Yeah, progress to the last flashback of the game, the last scene of the game. Really,
the best scene in the entire freaking game.
Oh, I love it. It's
right
so good.
For me at least. This is my favorite scene.
I would say so. It's phenomenal. I have a lot of.
This would win an Oscar, right?
I have a lot of great scenes from this game, but that's definitely up there.
I was in
coffee. And it seems like they're trying to like get in the semblance to talk. Like it seems like Joel's surprised that Ellie's even like trying to make conversation. He's just trying to keep it cool.
Trying to keep it cool, calm, collected. Yeah, he's like, this is the first time she's talked to me since the hospital. So
it's exactly just like a parent, like reprimanding the child, but it's the roles are reversed.
Role reversal, yeah. And he's letting her like say what she has to say first, and then he says what he has to say.
You know, he's being
powerful scene.
It is, and he's being accepting too.
So accepting, yeah.
And even Ellie's just like, she's just like, I'm not in a place where I can forgive you, but I want to try.
I think that's when it broke me. I was like, oh, I'm dead. I'm dying.
It's good. And Joel, like, you hear like
he's choking up. Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. Something like that. Oh. And then, but she asked Joel, like, I think she asked Joel, like after she tells him how she feels, like you took away the meaning I had in my life. She asked, and he says, like,
if God gave me the chance to do it over, I would do the exact same thing over.
Tears, again. Nathan, tears in the rain, tears big time. Oh,
it's funny because every time I think of such a scenario, like I always play it logically, and I'm just like, I mean, yeah, the greater good comes, but when it's the personal connections, it's a lot harder. to make such a choice, and I can't say I would be able to make different choices.
Me neither. And and that's what's so good at this game, because I'm with Joel at this moment. Again, I'm with both characters because I love both characters so much.
Yeah.
So part of me, before Joel spoke, I'm like, would he regret what he did? But I don't think so. Then that's exactly what I thought. He says, I wouldn't regret it. I would do the exact same thing over again. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, Joel. Because I would too.
Let's kill more dogs.
I would too. Like, I played the game 7 times. I did. Of course, we were forced to do what we had to do because it's a game. But yeah, like, I sympathize with Joel. Like, I would do the exact same thing as well. But also, I understand how bad that made Ellie feel. And I understand why Ellie's so pissed and mad at herself. Absolutely. But the beauty of all this is that Ellie understood what Joel went through, understood what he did to her specifically. And she still goes after the people that she has to go after in this game. After understanding all of what happened in her flashbacks. Because that's kind of the narrative structure of this game. You're like, why is Ellie, even when Ellie's first going to Seattle, I know I'm going ahead a little bit, but you start to realize, like, Ellie was kind of lying to Dina. Like, this is why she already knew why people were after Joel. She already knew because it affected her so much. Yeah. But she's still out for revenge.
I think she didn't want to believe that was the reason, but you know, it's so crazy. And just to finish off with the Joel and Ellie scene, I love that he asked about Dina, and
yeah.
He just says, like, I don't know what that girl's intentions are, but anybody would be lucky to have you.
Tears again. Like, I was full on tears at this moment. Like, I can't wait to get to that scene again just so I can absorb it. It's like, it's one of my all-time favorite gaming moments. Like, I already hated it. As soon as I watched it, I'm like, my heart is beating. My heart's beating so fast. I've waited for this conversation for so long.
That's got to be my favorite.
Because I wanted that closure, even though it's closure for the audience mostly, not really closure for Ellie, because it happens before the events of the game. But for me, as we went through everything with Abby, as we went through everything with Joel and Ellie, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like, at the Game Awards at the end of this year, like, this, I don't know if they award best scenes or whatever, but best voice acting has to easily go to Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson for Ellie and Joel in this scene.
Oh, they're all so great. I mean,
they're all fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, I even give moments to there's I feel like half the game was Abby too.
Yeah, Laura Bailey, phenomenal.
So good. She's so
phenomenal.
There's so many good points, and we're gonna get to the Abby talk.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either, because I think we're on the same page. It's like, I liked Luke in The Last Jedi,
so so do I.
All right, so yeah, that's such a great moment, and it reaffirms that, like, even though a relationship is shaky, they're starting to get to a more better emotional point in their relationship, so that when stuff starts to go down, like, obviously she cares and has that urgency for Joel. I even forgot to talk in, like, the very beginning of the game, I think, which is, like, probably a few months after the first game, when Joel brings Ellie the guitar.
Oh yeah,
in our own little shed room, which is great. It kind of, like, brings us to, like, where we're about to go anyway.
Good point.
Like, the cut forward, because that's such a great moment. It's like teaching guitar and stuff, and we also noticed that she's starting to get a little better by the time they get to the museum flashback. So definitely been practicing and stuff.
She still has to work on her calluses.
Yeah, it's like, oh, is that true? We're playing Rock Band. Trying my best.
Oh wow, you came prepared.
I actually finally did try to run a test of, like, I queued up the practice for the guitar, and I swapped controller functions to see if I could actually play it.
Oh sweet, did it work?
No, no, nothing moved at all. It didn't even register my controller at all. It was just like, nah. I mean, I can turn on the share screen, but any semblance of using the actual functioning, like, A, B, X, Y.
Yeah.
No, I mean triangle, square, circle.
Try to be like, if I ever were to lose you,
lose myself.
so perfect.
I mean, there's a lot of great musical cues, and it was fun playing guitar. I know you can make your own custom tunes when you go into practice mode, but primarily you're trying to learn Joel's song the whole time. Which is another great point. But yeah, when we wake up to the future, present, in Ellie's shed, we start to progress the gameplay. And immediately, the first thing I do when I start a game is I have to look around the atmosphere because the whole game is designed gorgeously, and it was so amusing because they're actually like throughout the whole game, there's a lot of Sony products, but in Ellie's room there because the world went under in 2013. She's got a PlayStation 3, big old fat PlayStation 3 in her room. And I was just like, oh, that's cool. And there's actually a lot of them throughout. And even like some people I took out like around that are like wolves and stuff, they have either like PSPs or PS Vitas that they play.
Yeah, I just finished. I literally I just paused on the hospital sequence, and she killed the girl after climbing up out of the water, and she kills the girl using the PlayStation Vita. I'm like, that's so awesome.
I was like, oh my god, it's like 2030 something.
But yeah, so day one, Ellie in Jackson wakes up with Jesse. Jesse knocking on the door. You realize, oh yeah, this is the best character in the game. No, I'm kidding. But yeah. Jesse is a great character. Just a great, great, great friend. The same kind of guy you would love to be friends with in real life. Yeah. And yeah, not much to say at this level, I don't think, until like, the dark moment. But
yeah, no, you're really just like getting the semblance of the world, and it's just like you go around the community and you're learning like it's a very bustling town.
Oh, you beat those kids out with the snowball fight.
Dude, it was so funny because Dina's just like, you want to fuck him up? And it's like, yeah. Bam, no mercy.
In the face.
I was aiming to. I was getting competitive, man.
Yeah, it's straight out of Elf. It's just so cool.
It was so fun. But then they had to like get back to the actual work. You go around and get the.
Are we going to speak specifically about Ellie through this in Seattle, then go into Abby?
Yeah.
Because it kind of switches between Ellie and Abby in this Jackson level too.
Well, I mean, I'll probably could touch on it because they keep it really brief. It's just like I was surprised that you actually got to play. Cause I didn't look into the trailers or anything for this game. I was surprised you got to play a different vantage point of character.
Me too. So early on in the game, because everybody, whenever they talk about this game, they always talk about the famous split, like when Ellie confronts Abby in the theater. But we actually go to Abby very soon in this game, which kind of gave us a hint, like we're gonna be playing this girl for the long haul. She is our co-protagonist in this entire game.
But we got a long ways to go before we get to her piece, which is that very long form, almost completion.
Totally, it's half the game.
Yeah, wow. It really is phenomenal how that goes. But yeah, it does start up with Abby with her crew, Owen, everybody. Like her and Owen discover the town, Jackson, and they start to gear up. And initially,
what was your thoughts? Yeah,
just as they were like discussing like that they were looking for someone, I was like, yeah, they're definitely looking for Joel, and I'm pretty sure they know what he did.
Me too. See, that's the thing. Like I'm like they have to be just from a narrative gameplay standpoint. I'm like, okay, they have to be looking to the main man Joel here. Yeah. I didn't want it to be Joel because I'm like,
sure,
because I'm already thinking this guy's gonna die because I only saw one trailer, and there's like they kind of sneakily hid Joel throughout all the trailers. They put Joel in like a Seattle sequence, even though it was Jesse. Like they kind of like did Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War where they switched out certain characters, which had a lot of people upset because they're like, "Oh, you lied to us," but it's okay. I don't really care. So I didn't know if Joel. I always thought Dina was going to be the one to die at the beginning of the game, and that Ellie was going to be so upset that she went to go.
The whole time I was just like on edge, like, "Don't kill Dina, please."
Me too. I'm like, they killed Dina, like I'll be pissed. It's when they didn't kill her in the beginning. I'm like, okay, now you just can't kill Dina.
You barely still have me after Jesse. If you go for Dina,
if they killed Dina, this game would have been dark.
Yeah, man. I mean, even to like some other characters at points in rapid succession, but I'll get to. It was interesting that they were setting that all up, and then I think you get to switch back over to Ellie and Dina, and they're doing their rounds and stuff. So it establishes that, and then they get into their the hideout bunker place before Jesse finds them. We switch back over to Abby and stuff, and we start setting up things there. and it gets to the point where they run into Joel and Tommy. Abby does.
In an incredible
What a moment.
sequence.
And I
Yeah.
thought things were gonna be okay. Like it wasn't even in my brain anymore that like we're probably looking for Joel. Well, maybe it was, but I wasn't thinking we were gonna kill him early in the game. So we're just running through and we're trying to help defend each other, and things were going good. And it's like, all right, cool. Oh, you got shelter, nice. Some full mansion, cool. You guys want to restock supplies? All right, that sounds good. Yeah. All right. So I'm Tommy. This is Joel. Everybody freezes and like.
Oh, before this is an iconic moment in gaming history. We have to give it its due because this is the point where a lot of people were so angry with the writers, angry with Joel. This is where people use the word character assassination in association with Joel, because they're like, Joel wouldn't give his name away. Of course he wouldn't do that. Like, what is going to happen? But for me, as I'm playing the game, I'm like, he saves Abby, which makes sense. Like, Joel's not a heartless human being
Anymore.
He's anymore, exactly. Yeah,
that's the whole point of the first game.
Ellie gave him a heart, basically. His heart grew 3 sizes that day
because he was so selfish at the beginning of Love First.
Yeah, and let's not get it wrong. Joel was still a very smart guy. Of course, we don't see it a lot. We don't see any hints of him being a dumb character. He's just been humbled. But people would use the word dumb when he gives his name away. But I'm like, okay, so he saves Abby, which makes sense because him and Abby were going in the same direction, right? And you see somebody about to get killed by walkers or clickers, and you're like, this. I mean, Joel in The Last of Us 1 wouldn't just let her die, even if it was some random person. He probably wouldn't tell him his name. But either way, he saves her, and then we get to the whole thing. And this is the important part here, Nathan. Him and Tommy, they don't want to stay. They don't want to say, hey, let's drink some hot cocoa and let's sleep over. That's not their plan.
They were literally just like setting up, like, why don't you come back with us?
Yeah, they were getting ready to leave, but
like they were already going to open up their whole town to them. Like,
there's two things. There's a blizzard outside, first of all, which probably would kill them if they tried to escape right now. And two,
distance away.
Yeah, it's a couple of miles away. And two, there's a freaking horde of clickers
right outside the gate.
So narratively, they're forced to stay in the game or stay in this area. Of course, the part people have a problem with then is that Joel revealed his name to Abby and her crew. I really don't have a problem with that. Like, I don't think this is the first time Joel and or Tommy came across strangers in and around Jackson. Of course, they bring people into Jackson, let's assume, periodically for the past couple of years now. This just an unlucky scenario all the way around. Like, so happened to...
Yeah. I don't think Jackson gets as like busy as it is when you see from like the small accompaniment that Tommy had in the first game. Because even though Jackson is an actual town, it takes a functioning society for like an established order to get that progress. And it seems like pretty popular of the town is Joel, Tommy, and such. Like
exactly
because doesn't Tommy's wife doesn't she run like the semblance with the horses and stuff? And,
yeah, she's like head of the town along with Tommy.
Yeah, the whole ins and outs check-ins of like making sure people stay alive, you know?
Exactly. And Joel reveals his name, which in everyday circumstances wouldn't be a problem. This just so happens to be the same people that are out to kill him, unfortunately, which sucks. And I spoke about how, what's up, Unboxed Warehouse? Hello there. I spoke about how, this is a spoiler review, by the way, spoilers. But I spoke about how that one sequence where Joel and Ellie are just talking in the flashback towards the end of the game is one of the best gaming moments I ever had. Same thing for this one, but in all the wrong ways.
All the wrong
ways. Because when that shotgun gets pulled out, they all look at him weird. The tension. Oh, let's just put the tension here because the music in this scene is fantastic. As I was like listening to it, it reminded me of something along the lines of Winter Soldier. Ooh, I don't know why that came to mind, but
was it kind of just like the sting of the
that sting, that drum is like boom, boom, boom. It feels like a heartbeat. And that's kind of like your heartbeat's racing. The music is symbolizing kind of like a heartbeat as the tension builds up to that moment, and then bam, you look around. And this entire sequence is directed so well because your point of view right now is Joel looking around, and then you see you hear that shotgun shot, and the camera turns around. And you see Abby shot him, And then Tommy's yell here, the voice acting across the board, fantastic.
Oh,
Tommy's guttural yell, just seeing his brother get shot right there is freaking. It's hurtful. It's hard to see, hard to watch, hard to hear and listen to.
yeah.
And
It threw
then
me off because like they brutalized Tommy's temple with the hilt of the gun like multiple times, and he starts bleeding out, and I was like, is Tommy out? Like,
they beat him up big time. They just knocked him out.
that happens a couple times actually in this game.
Yeah, poor Tommy. Tommy had it bad in this game. He loses a lot. He loses.
It's horrible by the end, but
yeah. So then Joel gets strung up by Abby, or first he gets leaned against the wall by Abby, and I love that. I love Joel's whole response to this because this is a guy who he knew what he did. As we saw, he talked to Tommy at the beginning of the game. He knows what he did. He's waiting for that moment. He's waiting for his luck to run out, and this is the moment. And Joel handles it like a champ, like an absolute champ. I hated it. I was crying profusely when it was happening, but Joel handles it like the great character we know he is. And he says like, get whatever script you got in your head and get it over with because I'm ready or something like that. And she's like, oh, I'm not gonna rush this at all.
yeah, like right away from that, like after the shotgun to the leg, which is like, my immediate thought was just like, I think Joel maybe could still make it out of here and like gets here in time.
Same. I'm like, okay, Joel can limp, all right?
I was just thinking, all right, Joel's gonna lose a leg, but
he can limp.
Yeah, you can live with one leg.
Yeah. I was like, it makes sense. Ellie can still get revenge on these guys
because I was literally just like, well, I know this is Ellie's game, so if we're gonna just like nerf Joel out of playability, like I get it. But
yeah, exactly.
But then they have I thought it was gonna. I didn't know where things were gonna go, and Abby was like, "All right, tourniquet his leg." I was like, "Where are we gonna go with this?" And I didn't even notice her in the background pulling out the golf club, but she does, man.
The golf club, dude. Just think about that. Like, oh man. Out of all the things, you never would think of a golf club, but it's a warehouse. I mean, not warehouse. It's a resort, a ski resort, whatever kind of thing. And
a lot of people were tweeting about golfing and golf clubs as soon as the game dropped, and I had it was out of context spoiler, so I didn't know what was going on. I think even somebody photoshopped Joel as like a golfer, just like with a swing.
Awful. Those awful people.
Even my thumbnail of my gameplay.
Yeah. I was like, oof.
I mean, again, if you don't know,
exactly.
But it sucks.
It still sucked so badly. But then we go back to Ellie at this point, right? I think because Ellie just had sex with Dina in the meth lab. Not meth. Weed.
The
weed farm.
Garden. I don't know. I don't know what you call it. Yeah, Jesse comes in and
very funny sequence. She's like, "Oh, don't come in yet! Don't come in yet!"
Why'd you come in? But you get why, because Joel didn't check in. Tommy.
And then Ellie knows immediately something's wrong here because that's not what Joel and Tommy do.
Yeah, they're dads, kind of. They're very parental figures.
They're father figures. Yeah, even for Jesse, Joel was a father figure to Jesse, as we learned throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tommy's very much a uncle, like
to everybody in the town. Yeah.
So makes sense. Like, yeah, we got to go. And I was so happy because initially I was just like, as soon as I got playability back for Ellie, I was just like, all right, we got to speed to Joel now. And luckily it was right there too. I was like hopping.
I was zooming. Yeah, I was going over the woods. I'm like, let's go. I'm still making it time.
As soon as I got in the house, I was just like, all right, we clear?
I went full like down. Me too. Like, somebody could come out and kill me. Like, I went full on like CSI Law and Order. When somebody enters the house, I'm like, is the right corner clear? Yeah, I'm like, what's going on?
I'm so compulsive in my gameplays because I know it probably doesn't make me go faster, but in my brain it does. I'm always like jumping forward. So I'm like jumping all the way down the stairs, just like trying to get to the door as fast as possible, as if it's going to change anything.
It's like a horror movie, right? Because you hear the screams, you hear the guttural, like awful screams from Joel.
An amazing recall nightmare sequence toward the end of the game, which
we'll talk about. Yeah,
it's so
so good. But yeah, okay. Fast forward, Ellie gets down there, opens the door, knifes one of the guys.
Yeah,
And then they pin her down,
and she pin her, like her face is looking over, and like she's gotta watch this, even though she can't stop it.
she's like, "Get up, Joel, get up." I'm like, "Oh my
Like that's
God.
very much her father, man.
That's your father, 1000%."
Yeah.
But the beauty of this, and Troy Baker talked about this, is like you can't do much in that sequence as an actor, but the way you can look at Ellie in that scene, it says all you need. It says all you need to know, basically. The way
And
Joel just looks at her.
there's a great entry in Ellie's journal about that, which was Joel comforted at the fact that he didn't die alone, or was he horrified at the fact that she had to watch? And that he just has to live with whatever happened, because now it's over. And what a thought process!
God damn.
Did you know that?
I forgot about that until you told me that. I read the journal my first playthrough, but it's been months. But yeah, I'm like, oh, that's deep. I think it's A. I think he was comforted by the part that his daughter, the person that he did all this for, was there with him in the end. And she knew that he loved her.
Yeah, because I think it might have been potentially otherwise if they didn't try to reconnect again. But since they were, I think he's just like a lot more peaceful that she's caring again.
Mm-hmm. And even if they didn't have that beautiful moment, I still think he would have been the exact same way. Like, I always loved you, no matter what you thought of me, no matter what you thought of what I did, I always loved you. And of course, the beauty of this game and the last game, you never hear the words "I love you," which a lot of players and people wanted really that to be said, but
a lesser writer.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I probably would have done it in that final flashback that we talked about. I probably would have wrote that in there. But the beauty of it is you understand it. It's subliminal, and that's the beauty. Yeah, and then Joel dies, and it's heartbreaking. It's crushing.
It hurts, and it's fascinating because effectively our villain set is Abby, and Abby's our set villain, and she wants more time at this, but Owen says she's got to wrap it up.
Keep her on their way. If she's here, more are on their way. Yeah. Yeah.
So they gotta get out of there, and it's finished, and just like the ambient noise that's all you hear until
we get to Abby's point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think somebody like kicks Ellie in the face, like, Jesus, and she just gets knocked out, and she just wakes up to Dina, and I think.
I'm so sorry, Ellie. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it hurt.
It hurts, man. And you don't really see any progression. You don't physically see anything in regards to the set funerals or speeches or anything. It's just after the fact by the time you cut back. And all you have is just, you have a gravestone, but you also we're going back to Joel's house for something. And then you just see a full set memorial flowers from the community.
Which is beautiful. It was awesome. It was awesome going to Joel's house. But before that, I just want to say, like, I've never been so invested in a character, in a story, in a game before in my life. Like, as soon as Joel died, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kill every last one of them. I do not care. And especially when you realize,
let's go.
You realize even before Joel kills Mel later on in the story and realizes she's pregnant, we figured that out earlier because Abby is running with Owen, and Owen kind of reveals to her that Mel is pregnant.
So here, a thing with me on that is like, I remember hearing that, but I wasn't named to faces yet. So
same, yeah.
After playing a long time with Ellie, because we get to the Seattle point and everything, like I played like through I not only played like through the long day one of Seattle, but I let months go by, so I completely forgot Mel was pregnant.
Me too.
Until like they deeply focus on that in the Abby point of view. But when I'm playing as Ellie, and we did get to that point where she does kill him, I actually missed it the first time of like seeing Ellie see her stomach. I just knew she freaked out because I just thought she was freaking out because like it was a very gruesome murder. All these.
Oh wow! Okay.
But then when I was watching the dude I watched play it through, I was pretty much keeping the same pace of just checking back in. But then I watched him play it, and I actually noticed her stomach this time, and it clicked with me again. I was like,
wow. That's why she was struggling with this so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh my god, and there's a lot of points. Just going through the game, effectively too, because and I think this is a good jumping point in the next progression of the story. Is not only we're going out to find Tommy, which is an important plot point that will diverge Ellie and Jesse.
Yeah.
Like we're going through day one in Seattle before we get to the theater, and there's a lot of signs that Dina is sick, and my initial thought was like, please don't be infected, please. Is just like where my brain immediately goes, which is smart in this world. And I was reading through like Ellie's journal, and she was pointing out how she was sick earlier on, and I was like, oh, that's bad. And then she gets sick by the gruesome horse, and I thought like, okay, well maybe she actually is sick by the smell, because that is gross.
Super gross.
Even though they killed zombies constantly, but I was just like, all right, sure. Honestly, I was just tired of day one in Seattle, like scavenging. I wanted to.
Day one in Seattle it takes a while because you get to go through the whole middle of downtown Seattle, go to the bank and everything like that.
Like, I guess I'll get more gas and a generator. Like, it was my lowest point in the game, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah. I love that level. It's a little thing, but real quick, gameplay wise, I love how compared to the first game, the encounters and the level design is freaking fantastic. Like there's so much stuff to do. That day one Seattle specifically is very open world-ish, where you get to go in whichever direction you want. A lot of things over here, you get a key to unlock an area in the other area of the map. It's so cool.
Lot to discover. I praise it. And also it's probably the best looking game I've ever played in terms of visuals.
Mine too. I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. A lot of people are praising that's visuals too.
I really need to play that.
But the visuals also is top notch. Incredible.
Like seriously, I felt like it was in the real world. Dude I was playing watch him play, he'd actually been to Seattle a few times, and he was like trying to like match up like places he'd been, and they were pretty accurate, so that's cool.
That's awesome. They did their research.
But if you're in Seattle and you want to see what the end of the world looks like.
Yeah, story-wise, I wanted to backtrack real quick to the scene after Joel's death. I forgot to mention one of the scenes I really liked, especially on my second playthrough, was Tom knocking on Ellie's door, and this is before she leaves it for Seattle and Tommy leaves. Tommy goes up to her, confronts her about, hey, Maria, or he didn't say Maria specifically, but he says like, I think you should reconsider going after Joel's killers. And Ellie blows up at him saying like, are you serious? If that was me or you, he would have been gone already. And he keeps trying to be devil's advocate in the situation. He keeps trying to say like, there's too many men. Yeah.
What a progression on that too, is just like Tommy's really trying to be the voice of reason, you know, whether he wants to or not, because he's going to go out anyway. I don't know if he's just trying to be protective of Ellie, but...
Or, like I was about to say, like I think he was trying to convince himself to go. And especially in the second playthrough, I got it like, because he keeps saying like, hey, Ellie, there's a lot of men that in the WLF, there's a lot of people. We're going to need some people to stay here. We can't like let our defenses down. It's very dangerous. It's very far away. And Ellie keeps like responding to him saying like, but I can do it. We need to do this. We need to do this. Especially her. And then Tommy's like, okay, well, I'm going to leave you with some food. Like, hope you go eat. And then we'll convene in the morning and then we'll talk about this. But I really think he came to Ellie to convince himself to go on ahead, which is exactly what he does the following morning. Like, he's already gone.
And then, like, just the juxtaposition of, like, really, like, a similar but reversed pitch scene when they're at the farmhouse by the end, when Tommy brings up the map plans.
A reverse with that. Yes, yeah.
Ready to go. And then Ellie's just not. And then he gets real pissed about that.
He gets real pissed. And in that scene, Ellie's in the Tommy role where she's like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But in that conversation, like I said for the other one, she's kind of convincing herself like, wait, maybe I can do this. Maybe I should do this. And that's exactly what she does at the end of the game. And I think, man, I love that.
And I think by the end there, Ellie really doesn't want to do this because she does have a good thing with Dina and JJ.
Mm-hmm.
And even
But
Dina,
it's in her gut. She has to finish this cycle. She has to.
yeah, because it's plaguing her mind. She can't sleep, man. She's got to end it.
Mm-hmm. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, in Seattle, we bunker in at the theater, and Dina is pretty certain that she's pregnant, and she is. And I was shocked. I messaged you instantly. I was just like, "What?"
How did you feel about that? Because initially, I was kind of negative on. I was like, "Really? It's kind of lazy writing," and which is so weird for me. Like, I wasn't expecting to not like it, but I'm like, I liked Dina's company so much that I really wanted to hang out with Dina on day 2 or throughout the rest of the game in general. Even though I knew
I love Dina so much. I think she's a great character. Probably my favorite character next to Ellie in this. Especially of the new characters. Definitely. But I mean, when I heard that, I was honestly just in such shock. But also, I put my emotions into characters I watch that I care about. So I was just like, I instantly just felt super protective and worried initially, because we're only in day 1. I wasn't sure how far we needed to progress past the theater. I wasn't even sure that they probably said so, but I wasn't even sure if our end game confrontation was going to be within Seattle.
So. Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I was initially negative on it, but it quickly blew away once we got to the proceeding days in Seattle.
And I think I think that point even got better for me by the time Jesse did show up. Because clearly
day 2 Seattle is intense. I love it.
Dude, so much.
It's one of the best levels in the game.
Yeah, dude, I was going through like all the things. I got a bow and arrow, and I was so happy because I got a lot more stealth kills in, which was great. Like, I was going through a whole neighborhood because it was approaching to the point where it's like, hey, is Tommy over here? But then you discover it's Jesse, and we reconnect with that, which goes really great. And then they bring him in, and it turns out he got a late start, and I think he had to go through a blizzard too. But he was pulling like 18-hour days on foot to catch up with them.
Yeah, on horse, I think. To catch up to them, and it was great. He's a very loyal friend, and it was a great twist because in that scene, that was the scene I was talking about earlier with the promo trailer where Jesse grabs Ellie's mouth and she turns around and she's like, "Why are you here?" In the trailer, that was Joel. And Joel's like, "Hey, baby girl, like I'm not letting you do this alone," something like that. But in the real game, it's Jesse, and he's like, "I'm not letting you do this alone."
I was playing it.
Cool.
I thought it was actually going to be, because again, I didn't watch any of that stuff. Playing the game, I thought it was actually going to be Tommy. I was like, all right, cool, stealth guy. And I turned around, and I was shocked to see Jesse. I was like, really?
Me too.
I was like, all right, cool. We're building our army against army of Ellie and Abby.
Yeah, let's go. And like I said earlier, I was upset because I wanted to play more of Dina, but I'm like, oh, we get to play more with Jesse. That's just as awesome. So we got to play a lot with Jesse.
I would have loved playing as Jesse or something. That
would have been awesome.
But yeah, man, it was fascinating, and we bring him back, and we go to get patched up because like we drove a whole truck down a cliff. I think
that was into the river. Yeah, that was so cool. The whole fighting clickers while you're driving, killing the WLF while you're driving. It's very intense. The whole Hillcrest chapter is so difficult, by the way. On survivor mode, I don't know how I'm going to do it on grounded mode. I'm going to be screwed because the dogs are everywhere. There's so many freaking soldiers.
Okay, now there's a thing of mechanics. I wasn't expecting to kill dogs.
I murked dogs so much. I felt so bad. The noise they make. Oh God.
I know. No, it sucks because like there's a two-way streak to that. Like not just killing dogs, which just feels really awful, especially with their noises. But when you kill their masters, the dogs cry, man. They're just sniffing around their dead body.
Yeah. They sniff around the dead body. I think is the easier thing. I'm forgetting my mind, but I think the easier thing is like to kill the dog or kill the owner first, and then kill the dog.
Yeah, because the dog gets more concerned at first.
The dog gets more concerned at first, so it's easier to kill their owner and then the dog.
Yeah, because the humans are just like, someone's here.
Yeah, because if you kill the dog, the humans can literally speak, saying the humans are here. And then that's when your cover is screwed. But if you kill the human first, you have an easier chance to stay hidden if you kill the dog. I just love a lot of the gameplay mechanics that go through your head in the game.
I mean, like there was a specific point where like I'm across the street of a neighborhood and I see somebody on a balcony, second story, and then I see a dude with a dog on the ground floor, and I'm just like, I gotta make sure they're not looking at each other. I'm trying to get headshots to make sure they die in one arrow.
Yeah,
because I want to stay silent so I don't use bullets.
It sucks. I think I don't know if this was the case for my first playthrough on normal difficulty, but when I'm playing on Survivor, when I try and kill somebody with my bow and arrow, they don't die in one hit, which is very different from Last of Us Part 1, where if I have an arrow, I know that's my one hit kill, no matter where, if it's in the head or in the stomach or the back or the leg.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not the leg. But if you kill somebody in the back or in the stomach with an arrow, it's a one hit kill in the first game. In this game, they get wounded, they turn around, it's like she's over there. I'm like, wow, like you have to get a headshot with these bow and arrows, which is crazy. I just love how every little gameplay decision can create a whole different encounter for you in this game. But yeah, day 2 was awesome. I loved everything about it. It's very action packed.
Yeah, day 3
fascinates. The end, day 2, like she brings Jesse back, but then she automatically goes back outside into the rain to go to the hospital. And I think the hospital, and then it's day 3, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it works. Because she goes to the hospital at the end of day 2, but then the beginning of day 3 is all about going to the aquarium.
Day 3, which that had a great kickoff of Jesse getting that reconfirmation or getting that confirmation, like, is Dina pregnant? And he really starts to grapple with the fact, like, okay, well, definitely mine.
We need to get back home. Yeah, he really worried about getting home.
Yeah.
But real quick, like in the end of day 2 with the hospital, that's where Ellie has her first revenge kill. Because
with Nora, right?
With Nora, because in day 1 she was kind of following on Tommy's heels. She didn't get a lot of that revenge that she wanted, because Tommy kills I forget the name of the person, but Tommy kills one of the people that killed Joel, or 2 people that killed Joel.
No, because I definitely discussed that. The whole thing with Nora, which was crazy because I was also really hell-bent, like Ellie was, to like catch her, because as soon as she starts running, I'm trying to like
I'm gone. Yeah.
I'm trying to see, can I get a clear shot while running? Nope. But
I'm trying. During those sequences in every game, I'm like, should I try and shoot? Like I shot just for like my to get like into the game. I tried to shoot, but even though I knew it was like it's not gonna work, but I wanted to try it.
and then as soon as like we both fall down that pit, where the kind of SWAT looking crew follow down with us, and then there's also a couple clickers in there as well.
Yeah, the spores.
Yeah, my initial first thought was, okay, here's what I want to do. I don't know if the game is going to be smarter than I give it credit for, and Nora is actually going to escape on a time limit, but I'm just, because all 3 of the crew land at the exact same area, and I was just like, screw it, man, Molotov, like, threw it in, and they instantly went down, and the clickers hear that, so they go to attack, but then they start burning. I'm like, yes, I only got to take out 1. All right, and I go through, but Nora's already like cornered.
Already gone, yeah. So I was different. I dropped down, and I was going to use the Molotov, but I used the explosive arrow at that point, and I just killed everybody.
I was late to learning about those, and I was like, I don't even think I used a single one.
Wow. Yeah, I love those explosive arrows. Those are amazing.
I guess I was trying to like build up more of my other thing. Honestly, my saving grace was the silencer on the pistol.
If you don't use the silencer on the pistol, we're not playing the same game. Because that gun is your saving grace throughout the entire game.
It really is. I was surprised too, because I know the last game had upgrade tree branches that you could upgrade, but this one had like straight 5 different variants.
5 different branches, so many different upgrades, and that gun silencer is better than the bow and arrow for me. Because again, the bow and arrow doesn't KO them unless you like get that neck shot or the headshot with the bow and arrow. So you got to be careful. But for the gun, it's easy to aim, shooting them in the head, and just move on.
I'm such a horrible gamer. I'm sure because anytime I would try to use my special things like arrows or the silencer, and I flub a shot or I don't get somebody in one kill, I would just be like, all right, well, restart checkpoint because I need this ammo.
I'm the same way. Like for me, it's kind of I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but it was very hard to aim and shoot in this game compared to the first one. I don't know what
It
it
gets
was.
easier when you get the mechanic where you can hold your breath, I think.
Totally. I think that's why they put it in there because they knew it was kind of difficult. The gameplay is slightly more adjusted. Even in the beginning of the game, I realized, okay, the aiming is kind of different. I switched my what is it called? My aiming sensitivity in the options menu, and
Okay.
I usually only do that on multiplayer games, so it's like easier to shoot and kill people.
I know you can upgrade your stability on your weapons, but I was just like, I didn't want to waste my gear points on that, so I just went with holding the breath. I didn't even know you could turn down sensitivity. Okay.
Yeah, I did because I was like, I have to get these things better. But
Come over
anyway,
here with scopes, like.
yeah, exactly. I missed so many shots. Like this guy would be right in front of me. I shot him with the revolver, and it went zoom, zoom everywhere.
Like I remember doing the flashback with Tommy of just shooting down the mountain, and I was just like,
I missed
I
so
will
many
never
shots.
use this weapon.
Exactly. That's my own part. I didn't like it because I kept missing a lot of shots, and these things were way too far away.
I was like, gravity will pull it. Come on, how far will I be?
And a guy who plays Battlefield, like I know everything about bullet drops, so I should have been better at that. But anyways. But yeah, it was so satisfying as Ellie and as a player in general to get your first kill. Because, like I said earlier, Tommy had killed people earlier, and you're just in his footsteps. But this is the first time Ellie puts it in her hand and kills one of the people. Yeah.
Well, okay. For you, maybe. For me, I felt sick.
I liked it. I didn't feel sick. Yeah.
I mean, you torched the doctor in the first game. I know you. But when I was playing. Insanity because and
they force you to do it too. Yeah.
No, that's the thing is like they dial up the brutality and like they force you and like they just got like the full red light over everything. It's just Star Killer base, man.
With that music again, it's like that boom 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 boom. It's like and
it sucks, man, because I commend Nora, especially like after seeing Abby's side that like she's not gonna give up her friends, which respect. And they go to. I thought they would have cut away. I thought I was going to be like, all right, they're going to give me one hit like they did with Joel in the golf club and cut away to the scene. But then you hit Nora, and
press it again, baby.
They keep they get her to a point where like it was an aggressive hit, and it's like, oh my god, she's just going to be going down. And then you just like see Ellie's face breathing real heavy, and I just see like on the side press X, and I'm like, I don't want to, but they forced me to, and they. Like I pressed it a couple times and I was like, oh god, and I was honestly, it felt so gruesome just hearing the power and the weight behind it. I was just like, can I let it time out? Like, can I choose not to?
Which is just crazy because in the point the spores they're going off and Ellie so confidently reveals like I'm not gonna die because I'm immune. But
yeah, she plans to kill this person anyway.
Nora's not immune. She's like, you can either die slowly or I can kill you right now. And I'm like, oh my god, Ellie, full brutal. But again, I'm so invested. I'm like, I'm going to kill every single one of you. I do not care.
That's an interesting thing. Is like the only person I was really frustrated at was Abby, and rightfully so, because that's how they set you up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when I took out Nora, I was just like, I did feel sick. I messaged you. I was like, dude, that's ow. Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe because I didn't eat that day. But,
but yeah, I totally understand why Ellie was traumatized because when
she gets back, dude, and she's shaking, like at the door,
blood all over her.
And like at the door, right away, you see like the hand just like trying to like grasp itself before she knocks, actually, and she opens the map, but she's just shaking.
Her hand's shaking. It's so good. But my brother just watched that scene. He was like, Evan. The level of intensity in that scene where Ellie's trying to look at the map and point to Dina like this is where she's at or this is where Abby's at, and you can just feel the tremble in her voice, the tremble in her movement, and it's like she really got traumatized with that kill because we know deep down this isn't who Ellie is.
And it was
Ellie's a violent person, but
she kind of had a similar quote to that in the first game when she actually does take a dude's life, like a human.
For the first time, yeah, in the hotel.
I'm just like, yeah, you don't think maybe that would have been a scarring moment for me, Joel? Like, and it's funny in the moment, but then like you think back on it, like, no, that's pretty awful.
Yeah, deep down, yeah.
That's a child.
In that moment, yeah. Joel is drowning in the hotel. Ellie comes up with the gun, shoots the guy in the face, and that's her first human kill. And yeah, she really didn't get a chance to struggle with that until
And I think they touch on this point on both Ellie and Abby's side with people. It's just like, yeah, it's one thing to like take out people from like long range and fast, but like when you're like intimately brutalizing, that weighs.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about perspective, which we get to Abby's point, and it's like you can kill the Seraphites all day, but when you get to know them, it hits different.
But now,
moving on to day three.
And we move out with Jesse, and it's like, all right, cool, we got this set up. Really fun that they bring up the point. They get to the Seattle Convention Center, and like they had old Comic-Con-esque expo.
I love that. Yeah,
and there's just like it looks like people were like super into stuff you were into, and she's just like, we're born the wrong time, man. I was like, I feel that. I mean, I'm sure I would have done well in the 80s, but you know, I like today's technology.
Yeah, me too.
Even though they didn't get a progression of technology, they're born post-apocalypse.
But yeah, so day 3, like Nora revealed that like Abby was last seen in the aquarium, so that's where Ellie and Jesse head for throughout this day, and until they have to split up. Yeah,
they're gonna steal this boat, and then they're swimming through. But then Jesse hears like, oh, over this way, there's this sharpshooter dude. Could be probably Tom. It's Tom.
It's definitely there's no other guy in Seattle. Yeah,
and it's so fascinating, and you don't really learn this till the point of view. But Ellie believes that Abby's going to be at the aquarium. That's how we get Tommy. But had she gone with Jesse, she would have not only found Tommy but Abby as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Hubris.
Oh wow, you're right. You're definitely right. Yeah, because Abby's the one with that shootout with Tommy. Man, that's crazy. Maybe Ellie would have saw Abby too, because like when Jesse finds Tommy, we don't see the scene, but Jesse apparently finds Tommy after he had his scene with Abby, like where Abby threw him over the edge. Really close, exactly. So you're right. That could have changed everything.
It was funny too because later when you're with Abby and I think who was Lev's sister?
Yara.
When you're with Abby and Yara on the ship, their boat going through. I was like, man, what if they just pass Ellie and like they don't catch her because there's like a splash of wave?
Yeah,
but
that would have been funny.
Oh man, a lesser writer.
But so Ellie goes straight for the aquarium. It was at that point where
it was doing the boat too.
Yeah, it was.
And I think that's where you get your first semblance of taking on scars as well.
No, like you fight the Seraphites on day 2 before you go to the hospital. It's like when she first meets him in the woods. It's pretty intense.
That's true, but I think you like really get their messed up nature when you see them hanging.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's
dark
cult. Was so fascinating, and I was like thinking, like going through everything. I was like, are we gonna meet this this lady with scars? But like it actually gets revealed later that like, she's long past, and
she died way earlier,
throwing away her religion the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, so
world building in it.
The world building is fantastic, and you get a lot of the world building through the what's it called? Artifacts. They called them in The Last of Us too. Like artifacts pertaining to like everything that's written down is basically an artifact. And throughout Ellie's whole 3 days, you learn a lot about Isaac before even seeing Isaac. You learn a lot about the Seraphites, learn a lot about the WLF, and it's so cool with that world building through reading, which again is easily admissible if you don't want to read anything, but through the reading, through the storytelling, you get to learn a lot without necessarily being in their shoes, which was nice.
I remember like the beginning of the game when you find a note and it's like it's this kid writing to Santa, and he's just yeah, can you I think I would really like a dog for Christmas. Like that would be nice. And then like on the back of the page, it's like, could you bring me a gun? I think my daddy would be happier if I was stronger. And I was like, oh my god.
Oh my gosh, that hurt. Yeah, I remember.
The world sucks. Like,
oh, it stinks. Yeah. But yeah, let's get to the aquarium where Ellie kills. What's the dog's name?
Alice. Didn't know it was. You don't know it yet.
You don't know it yet, but
you're just like another dog.
Yeah, just like any other dog for me. I'm just like, let me get this dog because again, I'm in revenge mode. I want to get Abby.
No, it's funny because like I hate that I have to brutalize dogs, but at the same time, they get to a point where like I'm inconvenienced and I need to progress. So I do like instant like fast take out Alice, which sucks. I think I had to like do one set struggle because I don't think they give you chance to just take her out immediately. She's just like sick on you. But you take that moment, it's like, dang, that sucks. And then she goes in, and Owen and Mel are arguing about an island, and you don't know what that is yet. And I was intrigued too. I was excited to see, like, what is this island thing?
Yeah, it was funny because when you go up to the door, you can kind of listen on the conversation. I'm like, how long can I listen in before I have to bust in here? It was very.
That's what I was doing too. I was like, I think they're just gonna get repetitive.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna get repetitive too. So I was like, let me just bust in here. I'm ready to kill people. Let's go.
I walked through that crab, and it was funny too, going through an aquarium because so this is, would you call this game a horror game?
Definitely.
Okay, so knowing that this was a horror game, I'm playing. I have a deep fear of the ocean, so I would not do well in an actual aquarium. Like, if you take me to SeaWorld, I'm gonna have a panic attack. So, I was going through here, and I was like, because I've also seen this like online video of like this creepy abandoned zoo where like somebody recovered a great white shark. This is real life. But the place was abandoned and the shark was already dying. So there's just this decayed bone great white shark in this dark abandoned basement of an old zoo that somebody discovered, and you shine the light on it and it's just like a glow of green algae water, and you just get that silhouette of the shark, and it's real and it's terrifying. So I was afraid I was going to run into something like that in game, and I was like, please God, no.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. To talk more on that, it's just terrifying. I was like going around corners, and I was going real slow, just trying to make sure there was nothing. And they even reveal later, I think, on Abby's side, the whales hanging, which is another fear. Like I'd no doubt be terrified to see a whale in real life, but I also have a childhood fear of memory. I went to a museum once, and there was this giant whale along the wall of the museum, and I was so petrified I couldn't look at it whenever I passed it. It was terrifying.
Yeah, I had never been that afraid of aquariums, but
well, good for you.
I haven't actually been to one in a very long time. It was
Anytime
cool
I'm like
walking perspective.
A zoo exhibit, I'm just like so struggling. I'll go into like I'm the same thing with like amphibians. Like I also have a fear of frogs personally, and I live in Florida, so that's awful. They're outside right now, and it's horrible. But like I'll go to like the reptile room of like a zoo, and I'm just like, let's go. We could have walked around this, but fine. That's me. But yeah, we're in the.
So how did you feel about when Ellie's whole confrontation with Mel and Owen here? Because I thought it was very fascinating how she tries to be like Joel here,
Mm-hmm.
or like what she learned about Joel. Because remember earlier in the game, she tells Dina like Joel and Tommy used to have this thing where they'd put a note here and they'd say, "You tell me this, and then I'll go over to your friend here, and he better tell me the goddamn same thing, or else one of you guys are going to die." And she tries to do that. She tries to act all hard.
Mel is
but
going
it
to
backfires. Yeah. Yeah, she does. Yeah.
But we know later Owen still has feelings for Abby, and he ain't going to say anything.
Exactly. We know Owen's not going to say anything. But Mel, at this point, we don't know.
Like Mel hates Abby.
Mel hates Abby.
Because she totally is picking up, like...
For good reason, too. There's
it obviously, like, what Owen's doing isn't very respectful.
Not at all, yeah.
No. But it's interesting, like, initially, and you could just... I'm not putting any fault, because when you're in such a high stakes, in the moment place, like, you have to get to the perspective of the characters that, like, not everything is going to play out super smooth logically. Like, we as viewers after the fact can like nitpick things however we want. Like what I would have, like if I were to play out clean, I'd be like, all right, well, Ellie should move back a little bit, maybe
always move back. Yeah,
shoot Owen in the leg maybe so he's incapacitated and can't move. That would work. Then you could get on a step on his leg and get info. I don't know, but
you always want to go after the person that's more physically dangerous in the situation, which was Owen. Yeah. He's a big 6 foot tall, big guy, and just like
and even if you don't know Mel's pregnant, it's still like he's buff dude. But in this moment, when you're facing down people responsible for your father's death,
You're not thinking logically, yeah.
No, and you're
she tries to be like I said, she tries to be like, I want one of you guys to point me in the right direction, and I want the other person to do the same thing. But Mel isn't having it.
And she wants to make sure she gets that info, but then she's in a panic when Owen approaches. He's like, "Get back!" But he doesn't. He goes for it, and then there's the struggle. And
I think does Owen get shot or stabbed?
I think initially first Owen gets shot, and then Mel comes over with a knife.
With a knife, and
but
then she gets stabbed
over right into the neck, man.
Right in the neck, yeah.
Mel, which sucks.
R.I.P. Mel, yeah.
It feels even more worse when you start getting like to know the characters right after this.
Totally. But yeah, at that moment, Ellie is traumatized yet again because at the same point, she's still struggling with what happened to Nora. And then just a day later, less than 24 hours later, she does the same thing with 2 different people. Plus, I should say 3 different people because Mel was pregnant. And
that's the interesting point is because like in rapid succession, it was a quick action, but like you see, like you slice this woman straight through the throat, and she's no doubt choking on that. You go over to Owen to get info, but he's choking on blood. You don't get anything, and then naturally, being a survivalist scavenger, you search the bodies, as we do in gameplay, and then she opens the jacket, and you see Mel's pregnant. And that's got to weigh even worse on the fact that she knows Dina's pregnant. So that's horrifying. And then she just starts to lose it. And
you're right. Yeah. She connects the dots between Mel and Dina. Oof.
And then she's freaking out. She drops her map. And then Tommy and Jesse run in and make, bring her out. But then also the map is left behind. And my initial thought wasn't like where things are actually going to go in the game. My initial thought is like, oh, well, now I can't read maps anymore. But damn it. I'm sorry for Ellie, but at the same time, I'm like, I hope I don't have to do more Seattle because I don't have a map.
You'll be pretty lost.
Right.
But yeah, so then they head back to the theater, home base, and that's when I think it's the following day actually when
I think we should also discuss before that. Back on day 2 is like there is a great moment when Dina's patching up Ellie and she's really shaken about the whole Nora thing. And then they have a tender moment, which is great.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That is a very nice moment. I love that moment.
And Ellie actually gets to rest out of like pure exhaustion, even though she was like, hey, what? Dina was feeling bad? You should have woke me up. Like, Ellie's always thinking of her friends. Really great. But then we get to the point here where we're back at the theater. And I think it's to a point where Dina's asleep, I think.
I think so, too. Yeah.
And
Ellie, she's definitely asleep, yeah.
Yeah, no, because I think Ellie's in the room with her, and then she goes out, and she's wearing like her pack and stuff because I think she wants to go get some air or something. And you can even like hear through the curtain, Tommy and Jesse are talking. They're planning their next course of action. But it also sounds like Tommy was telling Ellie, like, because they got to get Dina home, but at the time they're just like, we're not gonna get Abby. Is that okay?
And at that point, I'm like, for me, no, like it's not okay.
Well, for me, I'm like, it does have to be because I gotta save Dina.
Which is true, yeah. There's so many things going on in Ellie's head because she's like, 1, I understand Dina has to go. 2, I still want Abby though. But then 3, I'm still struggling with what I just did last night with Mel and Owen and then Nora the day before.
And that's why too, because like I am feeling sickly about all this, so I'm just like, mixing that with the protectiveness of Dina is just my point of view. Is like I'm fine, man. I mean, whatever. Like some things you just gotta let go. But yeah, then we progress, and there's a great moment with just like talking about Tommy getting a present.
Yeah, you're gonna give us like a gold ring or gold necklace. Yeah, and like, I'll prove it to you. Yeah,
right. And it's such a fun moment. And then Tommy walks off, and then there's a bit more heart to heart between Jesse
Ellie and Jesse. Yeah,
and just like we gotta think of Dina, gotta get her home, and it's like it's respectable, and it looks like things are set in that way, and also things are good, even though Ellie was kind of a jerk last time her and Jesse saw each other because she abandoned Tommy at this definite possibility of saving him, which was the primary goal that she promised
Maria. Yeah,
and
So they have what they need. They need to go, but then something happens,
There's
right,
a
Nathan?
noise in it, and dude, I cannot tell you my shock when we burst through the door and instantly the face,
Awful.
right in the face for Jesse. I felt bad because initially I saw that go real fast and I was like, maybe he was grazed. That was like really fast. Is he okay?
Yeah, I'm like, hopefully he's okay.
Establishment shot, just no hole in the face.
And then you get to Abby, and she says,
Yeah, Abby's there, and she's
pissed. She's like, get up, and because she has all the leverage right now. She has Tommy on the floor.
You don't
what?
see.
Yeah, you don't see Lev. I think Lev on that point would be on the stairwell or something.
She's side behind the boxes around the corner.
Yeah. Abby has all the leverage because she has Tommy on the floor, gun to his head,
kicks him down. Ellie throws her gun. She's freaking out. But she also admits, like, look, I know what you did. I know what Joel did. But you want me? Let my uncle go. And God, imagine like how much her mind is racing that. Jesse is now just dead.
Yeah, she's like, oh fuck! Like she's looking at his dead body. But then Abby says one of my favorite quotes in the entire game. Like, I let you both live, and you wasted it. Which is a crazy, great scene. But it reminds me of Kylo's line in The Last Jedi. In terms of like, where Kylo's whole main operative is like, let the past die, kill it if you must. Which is ironic because he can't do what he's telling Rey to do. He can't let the past die.
True.
And in this scene, when Abby says, like, I let you both live and you wasted it, she's kind of, it's the same thing for her, though. Joel didn't kill Abby when he went to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Joel let Abby live. I mean, not
was
like
there?
Abby wasn't there. She was in the area, of course, because Owen comes up to her later on. So she was in the area, but Abby was alive. She had the choice to either go for revenge or move on. And what did Abby do? She went on the path of revenge. She sacrificed her relationships, as we'll talk about with the flashbacks for Abby. She sacrificed her relationships. She prioritized revenge. But she's the one telling Ellie that her life was wasted. Like, you both are having to struggle with this cycle and this path of revenge. And that's why I love that line so much. It carries so many different layers.
And I think that also cues to like the semblance of Abby's look, which a lot of people have. I don't know why a lot of people have a problem with Abby's build.
Because they're idiots. Yeah.
No, yeah, I know, but like people like that exist. It's not
uncommon.
Yeah. And even it's interesting because when you get to the flashback, it looks like she's about the same. Well, maybe not the same age as Ellie, but she is. It is 4 years younger, and you don't know it yet, but it's at the end of the first game, 4 years ago. And Abby isn't as built as that at that moment. She's just a normal girl.
No, very normal.
Living her life, trying to make sure her dad's okay, because he keeps running off doing random stuff. And that was a fun setup to do. What a moment to like. What a choice to go through all this stuff, this whole high-speed revenge. You played like half the game now. Jesse has just been shot. Now you're playing as Abby.
The person who killed Joel, who killed Jesse, and who you think might have killed Tommy, because she shoots Tommy, and you're like, is Tommy dead? Or
yeah, dude, that was quick, too. And I was like, no, what?
I'm like, part of me was like, no way, right? Like, that's wild. 2 characters in the same scene. But as we'll learn later, Tommy's cool. But yeah, when I first started playing the scene as Abby, I'm like, okay, this is fine. We'll get a cute, nice little flashback, and then we'll go back to playing Ellie, right? No, you'll be stuck with Ellie or Abby for half the game.
Long time. And I think this was very important. Like, because to me, like, I know probably a lot of players where when you're playing all of the Abby stuff, it's you miss playing as Ellie because you were so set with that character and also the friendships like Dina and Tommy and everybody, and you want to make sure everything is okay because again they just left you off on a giant cliffhanger of at gunpoint, and presumably Abby's about to fire on Ellie, and you want to get back there and want to get Ellie out of there, get Dina out of there, make sure everybody's okay, get Tommy out of there because you don't know he's shot yet.
But no, it's time to walk in somebody's shoes for a change, and that's
I respect it because had this gameplay been cut like halfway for Abby and we swapped back to Ellie, I would have been like, okay, well that felt like a waste. But I feel like the more time I spent with Abby, the more I cared about Abby, because honestly, I really do.
Same here, and I was so resistant to it too.
Yeah, and it's fun, especially like just the first mission. I don't know if I can get the proper semblance of set flashbacks for Abby, but I'm
Me neither. Yeah, I'm not as like prolific as I am with Ellie's flashback. But real quick, I like the narrative tool that Neil Druckmann and the writers use for the very first flashback with Abby, where she helps her and her father help save the zebra. It's a very, I don't want to say cliche, but it's a very useful tool in storytelling to instantly get characters or get the audience to sympathize with the character. Have them save a smaller creature. It's like, I forget what the exact phrase if it's called. I think it's like the cat in the tree dilemma, or save the cat from the tree dilemma, where if you see a character save a cat from a tree, they must be a good person because that's what people do, right? In this situation, the cat in the tree is the zebra in the wire. So once you see that happening, it's like, okay, then Abby and her father must be good people. They're saving a helpless zebra right now.
He's very compassionate.
Very compassionate, exactly.
What a reveal too, because you're in a wildlife, and effectively this was a normal zoo. This wasn't just an aquarium. So you're going around, and I was hearing the noise of the zebra, and it's one of those random noises that you can't replicate because it's a zebra. But like, I knew that sound from just like knowing facts and watching Lion King and stuff. I was just
so before you even saw the animal?
Yeah, I was like, is that a zebra?
Interesting.
And like I turned the corner and it was, but it was like in the wire, and I was like, oh god.
I thought it was gonna be a deer or something.
Well, yeah, I recognized the sound, and nobody else would. Like, I get it.
Madagascar over here.
Well, not even that. I didn't hear Chris Rock. But you know, it's funny. Like we go around, and it's a great moment because also Owen gets around too, and just like
the guy we just killed.
Yes, true. And just like with Joel and Ellie talking about Jesse, Abby's father is talking about her and Owen, but it actually is a real thing.
It actually is a real thing, yeah.
It's pretty cute too, and I like their relationship a lot. And they all converge at that moment to save the zebra. The dude's panicked, kind of, in just like a sense like something's important. You don't know what it is yet, but they save the zebra, which shows the doctor's very compassionate. Which, unless you're like picking up past the whole, oh my god, we're about to save a zebra, like Owen comes in calling him Doc. So it's like, okay, he's a doctor. That's interesting. And then they go out after saving the zebra.
You look up, you see the hospital.
It's not just a random one. And you immediately cut in, and it's Abby's father getting the news that not only can we perform this surgery for the extraction of the cure, he has to do it, and he has to take a child's life to do it. But he's compassionate, we know. So,
yeah, we learned the compassion. We learned that he is actually very much so struggling with this decision. Not necessarily. He struggled with it at first, of course, but then he's like, I think we have to do this. And I think Marlene, who makes a great return, because I like that character from the first game, she's the one that's really struggling with this as well. Because I used to give her a bad rap in the first game. In the first game, because you get the audio recorder towards the final level where Marlene's like, I promised Ellie's mother that I would keep her safe, but I'm sorry, but I have to do this. But I always gave her a bad rap. But this one is also very compassionate. Like, what if this was your daughter, John? Like, what if this was your daughter, Abby? Like, would you be able to do this? And Abby comes in later on.
Right away, pretty much.
And she's like, if I was Ellie in this situation, I would let you perform the procedure, which is very interesting dichotomy between Ellie and Abby's, I guess, just mindsets in a way. Even though, no, I disagree. I take that back, actually, because
I think Ellie would.
Yeah, because again, you're right. Ellie would definitely want to. That's why she's so upset at Joel, because Joel took that away from her. I think Ellie and Abby are very similar in that sense.
Absolutely, and there's even another great part from Marlene about how she's gonna go tell Joel, and Abby's father is just like, well, why? They traveled across the country. He deserves to know.
Deserves to know.
Oh, but maybe you shouldn't have told him.
Maybe
because next thing you know, Evan's gonna come in with a flamethrower,
and I'll burn every single one of you like the Human Torch.
And I immediately contacted Evan about it.
Yeah,
I won't say exactly what I said. That was
like this was you, right? And I'm like, when that happened, I'm like, yeah, this is where I came in the first game. I could learn about it.
I opened up my thing and I said, so you're telling me in The Last of Us 1, you, Evan, torched, filleted, fried Abby's father is like, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. I had to do what I had to do, Nathan. You gotta believe
you have
me.
To be severe with a flamethrower.
I had extra ammo laying around. I had to use it, but I'm just kidding.
Thinking about it's 2013. We don't know context.
Yeah, we had no context, but yeah, it was great learning about this context. It was a great flashback. Do you have anything else to say about that one?
No, I think that about covers it because I think that gets into your first semblance of Abby
the present day. Yeah.
No, the halls of the hospital. With Abby, young Abby.
Oh, is this where she has the nightmare?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, no, it's her actual first encounter because Owen's there holding her back.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
See, surprisingly, her father isn't burnt though, so I don't know about the continuity. But...
Yeah, I was like, come on now, like on my specific 6th playthrough of the game, I specifically use a flamethrower. I'm super upset that they didn't go through with that. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
But yeah, it's a very tough scene for Abby. She witnessed.
She wakes up in the library.
Or she wakes up back at her home base, right?
Yeah, her home base in the library.
Okay, it is the library. Yeah, I don't know what book she's reading, but apparently it's very like a philosophical book.
Okay.
But yeah, and then that's when we see buff Abby.
Makes sense. Like this like extra affected. Like somebody killed my father. It's just like if Ellie had access to the gym that they established.
Yeah, they have a big gym. Abby apparently goes there a lot, and that's all I really needed to know.
That was crazy too. Walking through the WF headquarters is just like you turn the
baseball
corner.
Or soccer stadium, something like that. Soccer stadium. Football stadium. Yeah.
You're walking through with Manny, because they're going on an assignment, and you're walking through, and like as soon as I turn the corner, I just see like a giant full gym. I'm just like, wait, what? What's going on? And I walked through the halls because I think, for all I know, I think I'm in a bunker or something. And we're walking through, and then we're passing by a full assortment of lined up kids in classrooms, and I'm like, there's a full community here. Like, what's going on? You get to the food court, get some burritos, all that, and yeah, you just going through, and as soon as you get back to Abby's room, and you get that reveal through the glass of just like the full stadium, like imagine a football stadium where the center field is a farm. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and these are the enemies that Ellie has been killing for the past 3 days, not including the Seraphites, of course. And man, there's a lot of them. It's a big family. It's a big community of people. Everybody's so friendly with one another. I'm like, man, being in somebody's shoes it just hits different. And
absolutely,
this is where we get our first encounter with Isaac as well.
I think that's after
right?
mission run.
Is it?
I think no, because they go out first, and then as soon as they're brought back, they learn about how Owen's still out there and stuff.
Yeah. I think they go outside for a second, and then I think some people, after they finish eating, I think somebody calls them up and says, like, Isaac wants a word with you or something.
Yeah, I think they were just going to make, like, a quick run somewhere, and then they got ambushed.
But is that afterwards, or?
Yeah, because Abby goes alone. She goes with Manny after Isaac, but then they diverge separately.
You're right. Yeah.
Because first they learned that the person Owen killed had returned. So and then she starts questioning Isaac, which let's talk Isaac.
Because Isaac reports that, like, your friend Owen there, your ex-boyfriend, kind of went AWOL, and she doesn't want to believe it.
And what's the name of
Isaac's voice, Jeffrey Wright? Jeffrey, yeah. Jeffrey Wright. And as soon as I heard him, I'm like, that's Jeffrey Wright from Westworld. I love Westworld. And some other big things, of course.
I think he's said to be in the Batman.
He's going to be, what's his name?
Is he Gordon?
Gordon? No, what is he, Gordon? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's not Alfred.
He's not Alfred, no.
No.
That's Andy Serkis. But yeah, so it was so cool seeing his voice. He's such a great presence, such a great atmosphere just from his voice. So it was cool seeing him as that character that we've already heard so much about through the a lot of the notes that Ellie had been reading beforehand. Like we know this was the guy.
Big build up.
Yeah, it was a great big build up before even seeing the guy.
Introduction, like you go in this room and it's like, okay, so here's this guy, but he's also standing up from this dude stripped to a chair with a knife, and he's just like, don't let him fall asleep. Like, what? Why?
Yeah, it was crazy. And so yeah, we know even before we walk in that this is a big guy who tortured a lot of people. So yeah, it was great seeing him. She tells him that Owen went AWOL, but also, hey Abby, I want you to lead a battalion against the Seraphites in a couple of days.
I think this is going to be the raid on the island.
The raid on the island at the end of day 3 for Abby. So yeah, so Isaac tells her like in 3 days or 2 days we're going to attack the island. Abby's like, whoa, okay. But first I want to talk to my friend Owen because I don't believe you guys that he went AWOL.
Yeah.
But she doesn't tell Isaac that. She kind of goes off with Manny, I think, right? Or
yeah,
does she go with Manny at first?
Yeah, she goes with Manny at first until they get boosted over. I think that's when you start cutting over to the aquarium flashback with her and Owen.
Yeah, which was really nice.
It was great. I mean, I think it initially started off there on the Ferris wheel, and Owen's a jerk. How dare you shake?
Yeah, no, like come on, that's such a like.
I think that's such a fear of heights. It's really played up throughout,
which is very relatable. We'll talk about that later on. But there's a very relatable. Not everybody's afraid of heights, but I'm not either. But when I'm playing as a character on top of a big building, I kind of become afraid of heights. So
I'm not overly afraid of heights unless I know I'm in danger of it. Like I can climb up a ladder, but like just instinctively, my legs shake when I go down.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of like it's easy again to sympathize with Abby. Like I talked about the whole zebra scene, but also the heights thing. Those are just very much relatable tools to get audiences to care about her as much as possible. At least, of course, not everybody's going to be a fan of Abby, but there's certain narrative tools that they're using to get people on her side here, and it's very cool. I really liked it.
And I think we can actually like paste together these flashbacks because
they're all very similar. They're all at the aquarium.
Yeah, so like the first one is great because they have that relationship set up between Owen and Abby, but then when Abby is like still talking about like, well, we should get back for training, Owen just decides to take him on because that's your first semblance that like he's sick of this life, man. He doesn't want to be this soldier for something he doesn't really care about. He just wants his own life, and I think they had a lot more less militarized form in the Fireflies, especially when they were living off the hope of the cure.
Yeah, they had a lot more hope, and they had a light at the end of the tunnel per se for the Fireflies. There was an end goal, but with the WLF, what's really the end goal here? Especially speaking through Owen's mindset, like what's the end goal? We're gonna just keep on killing the Seraphites in this endless war. It very much so reminded me of the Vietnam War, like. Yeah. What's the or a lot of wars in the U.S.'s history? Like, what is the purpose of this war? Like, what are we exactly accomplishing here besides killing off people that we don't like because of religion, because of Seattle? Seattle is huge. As we're playing as Ellie and Dina, they discussed through small dialogue that there's a lot of supplies still here in Seattle. There's a lot of supplies, like not just talking about the game mode difficulty, but just in the in-game world, there's a lot of supplies, enough for both the Seraphites and the WLF if they would just get along. Of course, that's not how society works in this kind of post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, I mean,
and Owen's really catching on to that.
Yeah, it's fascinating because like they're like going through the whole aquarium, like they go through the boat and stuff, like, and you get to discover like the whole semblance of the family that owned the aquarium that lived there. Until it's so great that they have that embedded backstory until you realize that the father was killed by somebody, maybe Straddler or some, and the kids end up running away from their father, who they feel it's cowardice and they join the Seraphites. But also morality starts to kick in between Abby and Owen when they start discussing like, yeah, these were like genuinely like real existing living people. What if you killed one of them on that side that we're fighting? It's like, geez, I hope not. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And such is the horrors of war. It's just like, it's not worth it, man. What is it good for? Absolutely.
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. But yeah, so it was really cool getting to. I used to not like Owen, but the more I thought about the game, the more I really understood Owen. Of course, Owen's not a perfect character. There's not any perfect character in this game. But because like I didn't like how Owen later on, like, because he still had feelings with Abby throughout all these flashbacks. She's really having these romantic feelings for Abby. But Abby is so concerned about revenge and, like, as we see, getting built, obviously.
Yeah, and
she's so focused on Joel.
I think that plays up, especially in the next flashback during Set for Christmas, which was so beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
the design of like all the orange lights strung up around the whales and stuff, like that was
gorgeous. I loved it. Yeah,
it was so cozy. You had a bonfire in the middle of the desk. Like,
this was,
you had that tournament with the bow and arrows. Toy bow and arrows.
I got the trophy for that too. Yeah, that was
dude, some of the targets I could not find.
Yeah, look, where are the targets? I looked around and like I couldn't find the last target and I realized it was just right behind me. Yeah, I'm like, dang it. But I got the trophy anyway, so I was happy.
I only got as many as Owen. So apparently you can get up to 12, I think.
I think I got 11 or 12. I forget which one I got. But I got the trophy, so I'm happy. I beat Owen.
I matched Owen, but yeah. It was interesting following that too because they're separated at that point. Owen's with Mel. Owen doesn't say it, but he definitely is worrisome to actually like continue to give affection to Abby. Abby even putting her name on the board that she was here because Mel doesn't like Abby.
Awkward.
Yeah. And even if you erase that, dude, that's chalk. You gotta wash it. Like. But yeah, they go through all that and they go upstairs and he shares his drink he made. And they start, like, Owen starts to discuss, like, more semblance of plans of, like, more simpler life. But then Abby brings up, we got to lead on Joel, like, stuff like that. It's his brother. It's a lead. I got to see it through, which comes back to what Owen says that later against Abby.
Yeah. And at that moment, you kind of see how Abby's still so focused on Joel, finding Joel. And then Owen asks her, like, he doesn't really want to do it because he just finished, like you said, talking about moving on, going to Santa Barbara. And then Abby, he asked her, like, are all the other friends on board? And she's like, yep, I already went to him. He's like, crap. So at that point, she's like, and it's like winter time. So, it's about, I kind of knew it was about that time they're going to go after Joel because at the beginning of the game, it's winter. And when she's having this conversation with, when it's also winter, Christmas time. So then, that's when they finally decide to go after Joel.
Yeah, and then on the progression to Owen, we bump in the road. We get attacked by Seraphites, and we get strung up as Abby.
This is present day now, right? So we're finished with flashbacks. Yeah. And this was an incredible sequence. Now, this was the
best looking sequence in the game.
It's so beautiful to look at, even though it's so rough to look at as well, because it's very dark.
I really would hope Naughty Dog in the future does a horror level design where you have to move slow through a dark.
I hope not. I'm not ready for that.
Oh no, dude! Imagine like a pitch black forest where all you have is like a torch in one hand, gun in the other, but you gotta.
Are you trying to give me a heart attack, Nathan? This whole scene was great. You first run into Lev and Yara. Yara's the one getting she got her arm already.
Wings.
Her right arm, whatever.
Yeah, she got her left arm busted.
Left arm busted. Okay. And then she's like about to hang Abby, but then we don't know who it is yet, but we know it now as Lev who comes to the rescue with the bow and arrow, and fantastic. I love Lev. Lev is my favorite characters in the game.
Oh, he's great. Lev is phenomenal. And just his point of views and stuff are just so great. They cut Abby down, and then you start getting that fight where you have to fight a lot of creatures. It's not just normal
stalkers. I hate those stalkers so much.
And like all I have is like primarily my bare hands, or sometimes you'll find a bottle.
Sometimes you find a bottle, sometimes you find a weapon. But yeah, Abby, her fists are as strong as Ellie and her knife because she was going off.
Yeah. I forgot about that later because like I was trying to sneak up on clickers as Abby at some point, and it's like you need a shiv, and I was like I didn't need one before, and I forgot Ellie has a knife. Like, that's all right.
But yeah, it's a very intense scene. At that moment, you can kind of already tell like Lev and Yara don't really trust Abby because, of course, she's a wolf, but Abby also doesn't trust them. But they gotta work together to survive.
And then like later in that building, they get kind of stuck.
I love that part. Yeah,
see, that was a tricky thing. Is like I know she put them both throughout the window, and I was just like, why don't you just let Lev out first, so that way you have leverage. But
yeah,
all right.
that's exactly what I was thinking too.
I was like, because then they like disappear for a second. She's like, I knew I shouldn't have trusted them.
I'm like, they left me. Dang, I'm sorry. I was pissed. I was like,
I'm running through all the cracks in the wall because there's a bloater in here, and
I was running the entire time, running. I don't want to waste too much ammo, but then eventually
I never upgraded my reload speed, so I'm just just like,
I think reload speed came last for me too, but I was always about gun stability too. Stability was all I need.
Craft stuff at the same time, just like, do I have Molotovs? Fun. Like,
and Abby gets the cool fire shotgun shells, which is awesome. It came in use here too.
And I didn't get to I wasn't primarily using my bombs until in the latter half of the game because I was primarily trying to be stealthy in the beginning. And I was apprehensive on ammo, and I didn't know how long it would take to assemble more. So, but when I did finally just start unleashing, it was so helpful when I could like stun enemies. Like yes, I can reload. But also did damage, which was great. Again, great game mechanics of
the game mechanics, the level design, the encounters, flawless. So yeah, so she saves them, or they come back for her.
Yes,
and that's when they split up because.
First they're in the which was a nice moment.
They're in the where?
The one of the portables, the trailers.
Oh yeah.
That's what we call them in schools, portables.
Never heard of that, but okay, cool.
When you go to a cheap school, there's not enough classrooms.
What do we call them? We had them, but we called them like the trailers, the mods. I don't know why we called them mods. Modular. Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Info into our lives. But yeah, no, we're in there, and then Abby very smartly has I guess like a shirt cut up or something, and then she just like kicks off a leg of a chair, and I'm like, dang.
Yeah. That arm did not look good. Nope.
I guarantee if Abby has enough stands on Twitter, somebody says, I wish that was my neck. But
yeah, probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
But no, she wraps up the arm, and I'm horrified for Yara's arm because it's bright red. Like,
yeah, me too. I'm like, wow, oof. Like, very realistic, but very disgusting too.
Yeah, I would be like, maybe purple, but red, bright. Jeez, something's wrong. But it wraps it up. I imagined that's where we were going to leave it off. But even Abby lets them know, like, her crew's going to be around soon. They got to get out.
Yeah, you guys can't stay here for long. And this is a very interesting thing because we'll talk about it later. Like Abby's compassion for them and where it comes from. But yeah, it was a very interesting relationship that develops. But first, yeah, she goes back to find Owen. And Owen ends up in the boat that he wants to go to. And that's when he reveals to her, like, Abby, like, where's the light? Like, he said a great quote. It's not where's the light, but it's some very good quote that I really liked from Owen. He's like, we lost track of the light, which made sense because Fireflies, all about light, that light at the end of the tunnel, their goal. And they're in this useless war that we were talking about earlier. And it's like, I really felt for Owen there. But then, of course, they have that sex scene and it gets weird.
Yeah. Well, before that, though, it is a great moment when, like, Abby's in such a disbelief and probably her own personal denial mixed with that when Owen just calls her out and just like, well, what do you want me to do, Abby? You want me to go find my family's killers? You want me to torture them too? All that. I'm just like, geez.
That was great. Yeah, that hit deep. And she felt hurt by that. Yeah.
And then they attack, but things get tender. And then next morning, right. have a nightmare sequence where Abby's once again moving down the hallway, but then she opens the door and she sees Lev and Yara strung up, same way she would have been. They were gutted too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Very
horrific.
dark. Yeah.
And it's crazy because you open the operation room and it's almost the same, but then you see grass on the ground. Like, what's going on? And you pan up, it's the forest.
Yeah,
That's
and we'll see different takes on this later on. Like she sees Owen later on is very interesting. But yeah, so where do you before like we talk about her going back for 11 Yara? Where do you think that connection? Of course, we see the connection later on in the game, but where do you think that connection stems from? Like, why do you think she was specifically so? Is just the guilt that they saved her and she feels like she should save them, kind of thing? Because they are sacrificed. She's been killing them for a long time now. So why do these two people mean so much to her?
I think because also throughout their, it might have been throughout their movement there. Did they get a chance to like really talk in between searching? I think they did a little bit because they were talking about like, we can't use this stuff. It's from the old world, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and like right after Abby and Yara got rescued by Lev, you kind of get the sense that the Seraphites are after them as well. So they're not on the WLF side or the Seraphites. So I think that connects them to Abby too.
Yeah, I think it definitely does stem for like the honor of like saving the life for sure. And they very much are just children, so that's even worse because like I don't know, everybody has like the super like testosterone vision of Abby that hate her, but it's like really she is such a compassionate person. Like she's going around being like very friendly with her friends around the compound and everything, and she's a normal person like anybody.
She has some good social skills, yeah.
Yeah, she just went through some horrible stuff in life.
Yeah, and that kind of creates that near-side division in terms of her going after Joel, which sacrifices her friendships too, as we saw with Owen and Mel.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not just like she's like, oh my god, I lost a father. She's like, I lost a father who could have gotten us out of this horrible life.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all that in mind, heavy burdens and whatnot, it makes sense. But I think with Lev and Yara, she's definitely feels guilty because like one of them has a broken arm. They not using a lot of functionality in terms of their survival that could have benefit them. So I imagine she's like mixed with the guilt on that. She goes back to get them, which she does, and then brings them back to the aquarium where Mel
has arrived.
Yeah, Mel has arrived with Alice, who they have to call off. And they have to start forming this form of trust. And yeah, same with Owen. But then they start formulating a plot to go raid the hospital. And things are also awkward between Abby and Owen because Mel's here. And
they just had, freaky.
Boat time.
Boat time, yeah. But then, yeah, so I love this whole adventure between Lev and Abby throughout this whole level here. This day 2, I think, for Abby. Day 2.
Yeah.
Going to the hospital, just like Ellie's day 2 was going to the hospital as well. And yeah, I did a lot. Lev learned a lot about Abby and the Seraphites and the wolves, and Abby also learned a lot about Lev because when they get to the hotel or one of the random buildings, one of the Seraphites calls like, "Hey, Lily, we know you're here." And after you killed that encounter, Abby's like, "Do you want to talk about it?" And Lev's like, or no, Lev says, "Do you want to talk about it?" And Abby's like,
"You want me to ask? You want to ask me about that? Like, do you want me to?" No.
Abby's like, "I mean, if you don't want me to," I was like, "Okay, cool." And then they move on. I love that. One of my friends didn't catch on to what was happening in that scene. It's like, yeah, Lev is transgender.
I mean, I didn't catch on it yet until the aquarium scene with Yara, like speaking it out. But
when it's about the like shave, saying like she had to shave her head. Lily had to shave her head, and that like at that age, like that's where you get like married, right, or something like that, or
cult stuff, bad.
Cold stuff, and Lev was like, "I don't want to do that," and she shaved her head.
She was set to be a wife, or he was, which
he shaved his head.
But Yara was set to be a soldier, which was interesting. But yeah, shaved head, and their mother
didn't like that at all. Yeah,
which gets so fascinating later on. Which
so heartbreaking.
very much. But yeah, we do get to learn all that. We get the supplies. We get back surgery.
We also get the cool heights level part 2.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Crazy.
It's the one time I misbalanced and like Ellie and Abby just fell to her death, and I was like,
he died. Oh wow.
yeah, I was like, oh no, I made it a reality.
I thought I fell, but then that's when the cutscene happens and you fall into the pool. I'm like, oh, thank God. I was like, I thought I was doing so well.
I also had negativity in mind too. Not personally, but just from like outspoken people online. I was like, I wonder how many people just intentionally do this. Like,
yeah,
horrible. But yeah, and there was another point where like she falls off to the wayside and hanging on. I thought I actually did that. I was like, no, not again. They got me with the suspense there, and it's great level design too. It's not because initially you're just going through clouds, but then like the building starts getting the focus, and it's like okay, and then the ground's in focus, and it's like oh no.
Such a great, again, flawless level design. I love it.
And then you fall through. You do fall, but you fall through a glass roof into a pool.
Into the pool.
Luckily. But
and yeah, Abby had a lot of very cool levels. Like we had that. We also had while they're going down into the basement, you get like progressive levels of a spore-infested basement where she's looking for a gas mask.
Yeah, that was a puzzle for me at a point. Trying to navigate the platforms.
Yeah, there's so many different platforms, so many different stalkers, dead ends, stalkers hidden against the spores against a wall.
Yeah, they're like
come at you,
unbroken until they come out.
Yeah, awesome, just awesome.
It annoyed me so much though because I was just like, come on, and I was just like, I wasted flamethrower fuel. Restart.
But yeah, so then they end that, and then they go to the surgery, right?
Yeah. Also, could you imagine not getting the flamethrower in that mission? That would suck, especially later. But yeah, no, because I did get it's apparently an achievement to get every weapon. By the end, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, where do we go next in the story here?
I think. After that, she goes to the hospital. She gets the supplies. It's very funny because like she has to dodge some of the WLF. I think she gets captured there for a second, but then Lev helps her out.
Oh yeah, no, we get to
Nora.
The hospital. Yeah, it's occupied by the WLF. And Lev had to wait outside. Yeah, she goes in, but yeah, Abby gets captured. Broken out by Nora. We start navigating, which is crazy because it's like one day before she gets brutalized by Ellie. Like
yeah, it is.
Everything was in my brain every time. I'm just like, whenever like Owen and Mel switch clothes to like what they're gonna be wearing, I'm like, oh,
yeah. But then at the basement we go into the Rat King lair. Woo! This is probably the scariest moment in gaming
history.
I don't want to say gaming history, but definitely in recent memory. Like I've played a lot of the Dead Space games about this like horror franchise from EA. And this was very similar because you're walking around, you hear like you see blood against the walls, blood against the floor. You know something's coming, and then
one door that's locked, like you can't open, but then you hear like a guttural.
You hear it.
Now,
did you listen behind it? I listened behind it, and it looked like a normal bloater.
I didn't listen. I was just trying to go through doors.
I listened. I'm like, okay, it's normal bloater, so I'm prepared against that. I don't mind that.
Wow.
But then when you go into the ambulance,
yeah,
that's when it looks behind you. I'm like, it is disgusting.
It's so initially it's in shadow too, so it's like coming around. You're just like, what is? And then you see it's like 10 morphed together.
It's disgusting. 10 morphed together.
It's dude. Some of the best impactful horror for me is body horror. So
same
something that is semblance where it's like mutation of the grossest order. It was insane. And yeah, they start like coming in the ambulance and I'm trying to climb back and like I'm already aggressively like I got like aggressive button mash hit square trying to break the window and I get out and then you're just in the breakneck trying to run. It's like you're not gonna try to fight this thing. Obviously you gotta get out of there.
Yeah, I tried to run and I thought the whole plan was just to run and you'll be fine. Yeah. I didn't know we had to fight it.
Well, it's funny because like initially you go straight to one door, but it's locked, so you have to turn back to the one with the axe.
Yeah.
And then you pull that out, and then you actually do get in the semblance of like chopping at it. It doesn't take it down, but
you can hit it with the axe.
Yeah, no, you pull the axe out, and then it picks you up, and then you have to hit it with the axe. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I just started burning it up. I died the first time because I kept trying to run away, and then I got to it, and then it came up behind me like at a dead end. I died. I'm like, okay, I guess I have to.
Brutal kills by it too.
The brutal kill. I was like, this is disgusting.
It's so bad. I'm pretty sure like one head snap happens at one point. Jeez.
Dang. But yeah, then I realized I had to kill it. Then I wasted a lot of my fire flamethrower ammo against it.
Oh,
and then
I emptied it right away because I was like, that's stage 1, stage 2 Molotov, stage 3.
Yeah.
And I was trying, but also it's coming dead at me. So I'm like, I'm running around this complex trying to jump places. So if it's turning corners, I gotta hop around
again.
And right from the beginning though, when you like land a hit, you're like, oh cool, it's going down because it enters cutscene mode. But then something's spilling out of it, and then
it moves on to the next level where you have to like find the little spawn that came away from him. Like,
it's not just that; they're there at the same time.
Yeah,
so that's even more horrifying. Luckily, they're not together all the time. However, if you go to a point, you can run into one of each. So that was awful, and I like
do that in my second playthrough. I'm so nervous. It's just
what also sucked is like you get to that point in like the back corner where you're like where you can like jump this platform in case it comes through the door, but then it bursts through the wall, and I'm like, why? And I'm like running around, dude. It's so scary because it's just the way it moves is awful. It's nonstop like a Terminator. It just, it was so frightening. And yeah, to the next point, the little creature that you also have to fight, it's faster.
It's way faster, yeah.
So, and dude, reload.
Which reminds me of Stalkers, which I'm so afraid of it. But those shotgun fire cells came in handy.
Yeah, I had to scare it away first so I could like reload, and like I had to be smart about it. It was so difficult to track down, but
it was nerve-wracking.
I finally got past. There might have even been a point where you could actually like get out of there before killing it. Not sure, but I
don't think so. Well, we'll see. I'll look it up. But yeah, so then the whole hospital sequence happens, and you get out of it. You find the medical supplies for Yara. Finally,
full operation, all in a mini kit.
Full operation. I know, right? How handy. I
was like, there's cauterized stuff in there. I don't know.
Yeah, but, that's gaming for you.
Yeah,
Then we go back to the aquarium. Mel
Lev finds us. We're getting on. I was afraid we had to sneak out again. I was like, oh.
Me too. I'm like, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, the boat.
I was exhausted.
Yeah, and then we get a long cutscene that's beautifully done between like an assembly, like 11 Yara are arguing about operation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what's going on with that, and their mother, trying to get out of there. And then there's confrontation between Abby and Mel,
which is great.
Yeah, it is. It sucks for Abby though, because it just tears down. Because we know Abby a lot at that point, so like she's a good person.
Abby's a good person, but Mel is right to be angry at her for multiple reasons. Just like
for sure,
she's known Abby more than the audience has, of course, and like you can kind of get the sense that like Mel is slightly. I don't want to call Mel just like an angry, jealous girlfriend, but she knows there's a romantic feeling. She knows like
there's at least a past.
She knows she's basically Owen's second option because he couldn't have Abby. Because Abby kind of pulled away from Owen.
Could now, though, potentially.
Exactly. So, yeah, Mel just calls Abby like an angry, like crazy woman.
Makes an ultimatum, too, that they're going to go to Santa Barbara, but Mel will not go if Abby does.
Which is, messed up. I'm like, okay.
They could at least go separate ways.
Yeah, can you guys give me a ride? Damn. But
you're going to stay here? I mean, I know they got benefits and stuff, but like you're pregnant.
Yeah, I know. I mean, shit. That was very funny. But unfortunately, they won't get that chance, and that goes back to why Owen and Mel were arguing before Ellie killed them, was because they were arguing about Abby because Abby had left to go to what she's about to do with the whole. She went to go rescue 11 Yara with the Seraphites, but while that happened, you get the whole Mel and Owen arguing before Ellie kills them. But
that goes to a great moment when not only Abby and Yara discussing, because they have to go find Lev because he runs off. They tell about Lev, which was phenomenal to hear. Like I instantly messaged you again. I was like, "Let's go, trans." I was very happy. It's like the representation is strong in this game, and
it's really good. Yeah,
it's the accompaniment of different relationships, different identities, strong females. all
And
great.
like real life, it felt very natural too. It just felt very like, yeah.
Like this is a world. Like that's the world. Which is great. And then they go to look for a gift through the gift shop, which was a nice moment because Owen comes in again, all jokey. It's like, you're just gonna take all my stuff? Nah, that's fine. Fun stuff. And then Yara goes to look for Lev because Owen says he's like down the hall. And then they start having a conversation again. And Owen seems to be gearing up, just like, we can have a life together, Abby. And he has such a great line when he's just like, we're allowed to be happy.
But she's not allowing herself to be.
Yeah.
Because she was, I mean, she didn't, I should say past tense, because she had already killed Joel. And this is her recovering from that. Because the beauty of this game is Ellie is struggling to get this revenge, and Abby is living with that revenge. So Ellie is living in the, like, going up to get that revenge, and Abby's living in that future of, now that I did get the revenge, what is my life like? And we see that through these conversations, and she can't allow herself to be happy the same way Ellie can't allow herself to be happy right now as well. And
yeah,
it's tough.
It's so tough. But then
they go to the Seraphite camp.
Yeah, Lev escapes on a boat, and yeah, so they go to track off to go find him. And do we even no, this is in a company with it. They start down a certain path, and then Abby has to go through this certain path alone, and that's when she reunites with Manny, who's trying to deal with the sniper in the distance.
Is this before the Seraphite level?
Before the island?
Yeah, before the island?
Yeah, it's before that.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, we're going through that, which is fascinating because that's how we have to get the boat. That's how we get.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Yeah.
And it's fascinating. What an interesting level of gameplay. It was tricky, dude, to dodge the bullets. Just trying to find cover because it's
very hard. Yeah.
I try a lot of times throughout the game. I would just like take some hits just to take out enemies quicker, just get past. Can't do that with this bullet. Will get you every time, no matter how fast you move. But you eventually get through there and you start getting closer to this person. And I'm like, I'm gearing up, ready because I'm already invested.
I'm pissed off too. I'm invested in Abby.
Like, I want to get to Lev because he's cool, man. I was like, let's go. We're gonna take down whoever this jerk is. Never occurred to me that it could potentially be Jesse or Tommy.
I should have, because again, Tommy talked about his strategy early in the game about like with the whole Ellie chapter or Ellie flashback, shooting stuff to attract walkers.
And they also
did the exact same thing in the garage.
And that's what Jesse heard to tell Ellie that he was going to go this way because they're hearing about the sniper.
Yeah.
So everything's established and
everything's connecting. I love it.
Long form gameplay, man.
And it's very, again, how I talked about the whole cat in the tree thing with Ellie with Abby and the zebra. Now we see it again narratively. Like as a gamer, you're automatically going to be invested in Abby when somebody's trying to shoot you, and you can't physically shoot them back. You're really You're really vulnerable, really defenseless. And then that got me super upset.
Is tricky when you're like getting shot by the sniper and attacked by.
I died like 3 times. I'm like, jeez.
Me too. And dude, I was relieved I could take off my silencer because I didn't want to waste it. But I'm like burned through ammo. Like God, there was a bloater at one point. I was like, come on, man. Like
it was so annoying.
At some points, I did take the hit and I just ran. Mm-hmm. But you get through that and then you start pursuing this dude, and it's like, okay, trying to see who it is. But they're still kind of too far away, and you're going through. And then they get to the point where he closed himself in this doorway, and Manny's like, no, they'll expect that. Let's go around. And they try to get through, and it's not budging too much. And then out of nowhere, straight. Boom. And it's like, oh my God, what? And Abby just has to like dive bomb through the door as best she can. She does, but she's got blood all over her face.
Manny is gone. Yeah.
Gone. I think that's the first real semblance of one of her friends taken out.
It is, yeah. Because she doesn't know what's happening at the very moment.
Manny was pretty cool, even though like you watch flashbacks and Manny spit on Joel, but you know he was cool.
The B word.
He had a Princess Mononoke reference. I was telling you, like
yeah. As I'm watching the Ghibli binge, he talks about the Princess Mononoke, one of the best Ghibli movies.
Man just wanted to live life and chill. Watch movies.
He really did, yeah. With a lot of his girls that he had at his apartment,
Right.
or his room.
Weather lady.
Yeah, you as Abby, you continue to try and outmaneuver the sniper. Get outside, you clash with him, and it's Tommy.
Yeah, it's like, oh god, and like where you're fighting and struggling.
And I'm like, I don't want either of these guys to get hurt.
Yeah, that's my point. Every time there's a convergence, especially now that I'm so attached in this established point. But then he gets wrestled over the pier and he falls into the water. He gets away.
Which is presumably where Jesse saves him.
Yeah, and Abby definitely recognizes who that is, but Yara's there too. And she's just like, who was that? And it's like, doesn't matter.
We gotta move on. Yeah. And this is where we get to an awesome level. It's one of my favorite levels in the game. I think
it's one of the best. I think it's the second best design, actually. Just the glow of fire against
the glow of fire towards the end of the level, the whole jungle-like area of it all.
I think this whole event goes through an entire night. You get there at like sundown,
and you leave towards the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, you get back to the aquarium like right at daybreak.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through all that. Not gonna spend too much time here because it's mostly action based, but there is a lot of things that go down. Like first off, we do find Lev, tears in his eyes in the corner, shaking because their mother's dead, at his hand from self-defense, unfortunately.
Which is really dark because throughout the game you get to understand that his mom didn't really understand what was going on.
And it's such a like heartbreaking real issue of like trying to get your parent that you've grown up to love to accept you, but they're just not, and it's in the worst way possible because they're part of a super religious cult. And even again, like in real life, it's horrible for people who are deep in religion. It's the worst, man. But you know that's what ends up happening. And Yara tries to reaffirm Lev, and Yara and Lev are just so great. Yara's great. It sucks because she just got back on her feet from losing a whole arm. She already lost something. It seems like something good's going to go down, but then they start running. And then out of nowhere through a crossfire, Yara gets taken out.
Yara gets shot up, but she's not dead yet. Because after that, Isaac comes in and he's like, Abby, what are you doing? Like, what's going on here? Yeah. Kill those two Seraphites. And she can't do it, of course, because it's Lev and Yara. Mm-hmm. And that's when Yara comes around. She's still alive. Shoots Isaac.
Oh, Yara did that? Okay.
Yara shoots Isaac, yeah.
I wasn't too
And then
sure.
That's when Yara gets shot again. That's when Yara officially
because I thought randomly out of nowhere, they were just like randomly rained bullets. And I was like, why? So I missed it.
No, it was Yara. She took the gun of the guy that shot her. And then, Yara shoots him, and then that gives a chance for Abby and Lev to escape, which they do.
Which is so crazy. Like, all that build up for Isaac, and now he's out.
And he's out, yeah. Poor Jeffrey Wright. But he had a great moment in the story. He filled his role completely. Like, as much as the Seraphites are the religious figures, so are the WLF in the sense that they're both restricting. They're both very restrictive in the society that they live. Like, they both don't want to give in to each other's side.
And I think the game story works best not bogging down in just like complete backstory history of these factions. I think it works best navigating through this established world.
It doesn't give you an exact answer on who actually started this whole conflict in the first place. It's very he said, she said, which is awesome. It doesn't give you an answer like the WLF tried to establish peace, but the Seraphites totally ruined it. The Seraphites were evil. Like, no. Yeah. It's like people have different perspectives on what happened, which is
which like
a meta sense of the game.
Yeah, so. Which like for example, I wouldn't want to play a Isaac prequel game or anything. I just want more stories about like journeying with like Abby and Ellie, which we'll definitely discuss by the end here, which we're getting to. Yeah, we're about to get culminations. So now we're navigating through the island. Yara's just gone, and Lev has that horrifying moment when they get through. They're in a building blocked off, and he's just looking at her blood on his hands, just like she's gone. This
game is so dark, and he blames himself, Lev blames himself. Yeah.
And he calls out Ellie, is like, those are your people. And Abby, great line, saying, you're my people.
You're my people. Yes.
Oh,
great line. I love that line so much.
Because
she's like, especially after the whole conversation with Mel, it's like, She lost her friends in Mel and possibly Owen. And then, Lev is the only person she has left, especially with the WLF on her butt. And then the Seraphites on them too. Is like, you are my people now, which is amazing. They're both each other's people. And then it leads us to an awesome boss battle. One of my favorite sequences, because like we talked about, the fire, the level design is insane. You get a great boss battle. You cut the guy up so many times, and it's so riveting.
Cheek.
It's so brutal. I loved it.
It's still going, dude. As soon as I was actually able to lock down those boss fights, I got happier because
me too.
You have to learn the pattern.
Yeah.
But yeah, you take them out, and I think a couple arrows get shot from Lev, which is great.
It was just
to get through.
Yeah, it felt so cathartic to leave that island. I'm like, gee, I felt so bad for Lev's homeland, but also like that was one tough level. A lot of stuff happened.
It's interesting too because even as you're leaving, you see on the docks most of the Seraphites are killing off the WLF anyway, but also their land is burned, so really like nobody wins.
Nobody wins. That's the whole which is part of the whole. It's a macro scope idea of the game itself. Nobody wins. Ellie's revenge, Abby's revenge. Nobody wins. But yeah, so that ends. What's after that? What happened after that?
We get to the aquarium.
Where
Lev is still pretty stunned. Abby has to call his name a couple times and snap him out of it, bring him back to shore, and then they start going through. And I know what's coming up for sure at this point. And
the audience totally does. We're like, oh no.
I'm just beelining for that crab door. I think we find Alice first.
We find a dead Alice.
We now have an established connection with, because what's the first thing the game offers you functionality to do when you get to the WLF headquarters?
Play catch with Alice.
You can play fetch with a dog, dude.
Fetch, yeah. Oh man.
It's so fun. And you can give him love. Like just everything.
Yeah. Oh man, that hurt.
Which makes it even worse after you've killed how many dogs?
I know, 1,000. But yeah, so then she finds Owen and Mel in a bloodied up map with the headquarters circled. Thanks a lot, Dina and Ellie. The theater.
Yeah, like, panning that out though, like you walk in, it's like, oh my god, Mel is taken out, and it's like that does suck, legit. But then you also see Owen is and Abby just. I keep bouncing back and forth. They sound so similar, but Abby just falls apart, like to her knees. I think she even gets sick too, and she's so many tears. And Lev calls to her to show her the map, which I didn't even think about earlier. Like I said, I was just like, well, I can't navigate it anymore. But no, that was key to focus on, because now Abby knows how to track him down. And we also established in the first flashback with Abby that she has established skill of tracking through her father.
Great point. I didn't even connect that.
So yeah, even better with the map. So
and then they head back to the theater, and it was so cool trying to go into a place that we called home for Ellie for the past 3 days, and
they force you to stay with Abby. And I'm going through. I'm on the outside, and I'm like, I know the front door isn't going to work, but I try anyway. So
me too.
I beeline around the side, you climb the ladder, you get in, and I know where everything is now, and I'm just like, this sucks. I probably know where everybody is, but let me just check the balcony real quick. Nobody's on the couch. I go check the projector room. Nobody's in there. But you get to see that Abby sees all of her friends spread out, and everything's plotted out. Just the full revenge
plot, yeah.
And so I make my way, I think a little bit downstairs, maybe, or no, yeah, I think it is, because you go inward toward where it's where it is the ground floor. You go toward the entrance to the theater room, but Tommy's there, and he's like, once again reaffirming that, like, no, it's definitely a real necklace. But it's like hands up, and
Tommy isn't having it. Yeah,
great lines all around. Tommy's like, "You're gonna kill me like a coward," and Abby doesn't give.
Yeah, she's like, I don't give a crap. My friends are all dead.
Just bam, like right in the knee, pins him down, and like directs Lev over to the side, because didn't see him earlier in the cutscene. But keep the arrow on Tommy, and then they hear that semblance of the scuffle, and Abby's ready, and horrible that I have to experience this from another perspective, but right in the face for Jesse.
Boom. Which is Jesse was like not as close as Ellie was or Abby was to Owen, but just in terms of love, it's like Jesse loved Ellie, Ellie loved Jesse, and then man, it's just hard to watch.
And I don't know if the facial features were different, but like when I was looking at Ellie from Abby's perspective, she looked even more frightened.
I had the same feeling, but I think the facial features were pretty much similar. But I guess from Abby's perspective,
made side by side, I gotta look up. But it's so crazy, and they get you right back to the point of we let you live and you wasted it. And it hurts even more now because all of Abby's friends are dead that you actually have learned to care about through Ellie, who you played as for so long. And dude, I felt so bad because I didn't want any conflict between these two. And what did they do? Immediately, Ellie escapes into the theater. You think Tommy gets shot in the face, and it's rapid pace, and instantly
you run after Ellie.
And you're exiting cinematic mode, and I'm like, don't make me do this. And like you're taking cover, and you can take aim at Ellie, and I'm like, don't make me do this.
It was one of the most uncomfortable experiences having to go after Ellie and fight her. I'm like, this is so hard to play.
Shot one bullet at the curtain because I was just like, did they actually let you? And they did. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna shoot Ellie, so I just pursued on foot. And then just the tables get turned when Ellie is a cycling predator that you've taken out so much throughout the game. Now she's going around with all the weaponry. You've got virtually nothing because you lost your bag through the island.
Yeah, and she's laying trap mines. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, she is, dude. Everything. And initially, I didn't know how it was gonna go. You have to like really like trial and error learn what you're supposed to do. You actually are supposed to fight Ellie throughout, but I wouldn't get that at first because anytime Ellie has a clear shot at you, she will machete you, she will shoot you, anything. One shot. And it's tough, dude. You really got to wear it.
It's pretty tough, yeah. You have to be patient. Yeah. You have to be patient. But yeah, overall, it was just very tough to fight as a character that you love playing as. You love Ellie so much, and you didn't want either of them, at least for me, I didn't want either of them to fight each other in this moment.
Sam, I didn't want either to die. I was wondering, like, could I even, like, time out certain things? Because even, like, they get to a point where, like, you're choking Abby, or you're choking
Dina, or Ellie.
No, before that, where we're still fighting. Abby chokes Ellie, and, like, you have to repeatedly mash the button. I was like, can I just stop? Because I feel like I'm going to kill her. So I did stop. I don't know if that actually affected anything. Probably not, because then I get knifed in the leg by Ellie, and it progresses to round 2, which I had to be more smart about it. So what I would do is I would pick up the bottles and bricks around. I would stun Ellie in the face to knock her back. But then, like, Abby punches her through the floor, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so brutal.
So super brutal.
But yeah, then we get to the assemblance where getting just the beat down. Like, Abby is beating Ellie so much to a pulp.
It's and like then 5 consecutive punches. And then Dina comes in, yeah.
But then that doesn't work out either. And it felt so uncomfortable watching her face get mashed. And then there was the knife to the neck, and it was so scary because initially what I thought about this earlier. I was like, maybe at this confrontation that I feel like is going to happen. And I was thinking that before I realized Mel was pregnant. That Ellie could plead with Abby that Dina's pregnant. And she tries.
Yeah.
Abby's just like, good, because you did the same thing. And it's just like, oh my God, I was so scared, dude. I really thought she was going to get taken out. But Lev, moral compass in the corner, comes in. Thank you. Because just lets her go.
Thank God for Lev. Thank God for Lev.
And it's just like, I better not see your face again. And they disappear. And
never come back to Seattle, ever. And it's like...
Right. And that's the last.
And that's the end, yeah. But then we get the 1 year later farm, yeah.
I guess it would be about that time.
I think it is 1 year later.
I don't think they prompted on screen, but obviously the baby.
I heard somewhere it's 1 year later.
You go through a full pregnancy, so yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
It's over 9 months, yeah.
Yeah, you start off with Ellie looking at Joel's watch with just feels like such a solo's dice in terms of like progressing from Joel's daughter to Joel to Ellie.
Yeah.
And she's just sitting there, and she's got a new look, a new haircut, and everything.
And did you think this was the end of the game? Because for me, I was like, I fully thought this was the end. I thought this was
I would have been fine. I would have been satisfied because I was like, Ellie's living
completely
her life now.
Me too.
Cool. Give me my happy ending. And
Yeah.
they really establish you here because you're walking around, you're conversing with Dina playfully, even though she's doing chores, you're distracting her. You know, it's couple life and putting on music. You go
dancing.
around.
Yeah.
Everything's fun, and you got JJ with you, who looks very much like Jesse, so cute. And you just progress through, and then you start going into the barn because one sheep's out, and it's like, okay, well, I'll go get it. And the cut is amazing when the shovel falls, and it just like rapidly cuts to Joel. And it's like, it's so scary, and it throws you off. And then there's just like a hurricane level wind outside, and you're hoping the sheep doesn't run out, but it does. And you go get him to leave, but then the door slams you in darkness, and you just emerge down the long stairway to where Joel was being killed, and you got to re-experience that again. You go through.
Is that PTSD that Ellie's struggling with, and it's so heartbreaking. And like you were saying earlier, I would have been happy with this at the final level, but then you get to that scene, you're like, I feel so bad for Ellie. I don't want it to end like this, and that's when I really went back to like, maybe I do have to kill Abby, which is exactly what the game grants you when
it's so fascinating because as soon as she emerges from the dream, she's just sitting on the ground screaming, but also she's got the baby, so that's even worse. Frightening it.
Not a good look.
Dina's there to, comfort her, but it's hard, dude. It's tough, no doubt. And then
that's when Tommy comes.
That worst timing ever.
Horrible timing.
To just have to go through that, and then you get offered the plan. She's just kind of sitting there, stunned, uncomfortable, because she doesn't want to have to go through this again. But also
she is struggling with the PTSD. So in her head, she's like, I don't want to go through. I have a family now. I have JJ. I have Dina, but I'm kind of getting sore on this idea as Tommy's telling her.
And you go through that stuff, and Dina is
pissed, justifiably so.
Yeah. Poor soul, just like she's a parent, single parent if Ellie leaves, and they got a great established life at the farm, and they're away from Jackson, they're away from that all. It's a new life, and dude, you walk out the first time when you like sit with JJ on the tractor, the landscape is gorgeous. Like, not just the sunset on this side, but you turn around, there's a full range of mountains. Like, it's so beautiful. Why would you leave it? But
and then like we said earlier, it's a very smart parallel to the beginning of the game where Tommy came in to comfort Ellie, but this time he's coming in to like agitate and push Ellie.
Scarred from the bullet.
He's scarred from the bullet that I guess was a through and through, which is lucky. But also at that moment we learned that Tommy is also hurting as well. He lost Maria, probably because of the anger and resentment he felt towards losing his ability to walk properly, losing his ability to see properly, and losing his ability to get justice for Joel. Yeah. And that really probably hurt him inside. So we lost Maria right now. Ellie's trying to push. Ellie's away. So yeah, she's really trying to. He has nothing, which is so sad. And he's trying to push Ellie. He's trying to make Ellie his conduit for revenge, basically.
It's just not fair for anybody. It's not fair for Dina, Ellie, or Tommy.
Nobody. But this is a cycle of revenge. This is what revenge is. This is the consequences of it. Such
a slippery slope.
But then
later that night,
she decides to leave.
It's interesting. She wakes up to play the guitar, but I think before that, I entered the room and I opened a box and you found Ellie's journal, and I was going through it, and she's got a lot of notes in there.
About Jesse.
Yeah, about Jesse, who she sketches. She sketches Abby, so she's still thinking about that. She's got the PTSD she's writing down, but also the affection she has for the little guy, JJ, which is just all the accompaniment of everything is phenomenal. All that establishment, which you can also pick up on the story on its own, but it's just the text enriches it in these discoveries, which is the beauty of video games. Yes, you get more exploration time, 30 hours versus a movie, which is why I'm happy the live action is going to be a TV series.
Oh man, yeah, I'm super excited for that. Hopefully, and there's supposed to be more scenes, so if there's more scenes to flesh this out too, that would be awesome.
Yeah, imagine or dive into like Seraphite culture or something. That's interesting.
That's very interesting. But yeah, so then Ellie decides to leave, and Dina confronts her about it. And I like the whole conversation of Ellie saying, I'm still struggling with this. I'm not like you. I think she says, like, I'm not like you, Dina. I can't just get over it. And Dina's like,
I can't sleep.
Dina's like, I am like you, Ellie. Like, you don't think I'm suffering either? Like, I lost my best friend in Jesse. And JJ lost her father in that sense.
Dina's keeping it together for Ellie.
She's keeping it together for Ellie, but then she tells Ellie, if you leave, I won't be here waiting for you.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not gonna do this again. And Ellie's like, that's your choice. Hurts, dude. And I really thought there might be a reunion later, and we'll get there. But she just exits out the door, and we're in a very warm climate for a change.
Yeah, and that's when we switch over to Abby, though, or maybe Abby came before this. But either way,
we go to Abby and Lev traversing.
Which I thought it was a happy ending for them to like, oh yeah, they're gonna go to the Fireflies. They found it. Yay, the traversing.
Got a little bit more hair. It's
he got a little bit more hair. He got the bow and arrow. T-shirt
to the basement, and I'm glad you said that they actually do find the Fireflies, because I initially thought once they get captured by like that gang,
you thought that was a whole chapel around. Yeah, me too.
I was like, come on, that's unfair to the highest. Yeah.
But at the very end of the game, after they get saved by Ellie,
and it makes sense there be more people like this in this lawless time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so then they get captured by these slave catchers called the Rattlers, who have skulls on their jackets and their chests, and they kidnap them after Abby and Lev make contact with the Fireflies. Which is so cool.
It's a great scene when Ellie gets caught in the trap, because it always sucks because she drops the knife and it's like, God, that off, and it's even more gruesome that she swings into like a broken branch and impales
stabbed,
which is like Kylo in The Force Awakens, like it's doing the same effect. It's nuts, dude. But when she gets caught and dropped down, it's so great because she's real cocky about it. It's especially great because they get prompted to like have her get bitten, but she's immune and they don't know it. And it's such a great scene because she just hurls herself into it to get the other guy taken out, and then just rattles the other dude with bullets with this new gun that is so useful.
Incredible scene. I loved it. Badass Ellie. But I thought by the end of the game here, I thought Ellie was going to die. I was so nervous. I'm like, if Ellie dies here, I'm going to be pissed.
It gets crazy. It's so cool, too, when she has the dude pinned and he notices the bite, like, oh, you don't have much time. And she's just like, unfazed, like, talk.
At that moment, I'm like, there's two things here, or just one thing. I'm like, if Ellie dies from that wound from the tree, I'm going to be pissed. But also, if she dies from, like, what if she's not immune? What if the game does a twist and it's like, wait a second.
Like, it's something.
Yeah, it slows down or something, but then by the end, she does succumb to her wound. I'm like, but that never came to pass. But it just went through my brain when I was first playing through this playthrough.
And it gets so intense because you do the raid on the base. And
again, great level design. The whole outside area is pretty crazy. But then even inside, there's like a whole mansion with a whole different floors and everything. Spiral staircase.
I was like wrapping around so many different rooms.
Yeah, there's so many different rooms. The game is just so incredible with this gameplay. But yeah, she saves the whole cage filled with a lot of all these prisoners.
One guy gets unsettled because she's bit. But they're just like, whatever, just stop.
Heck is Abby?
she's down at the Pillards, which is a big spooky place. So it's like she's probably already dead, not knowing what that actually means. But then when you traverse down there slowly, because you're very wounded, it comes in the frame through the fog, and you just see all the like hanging victims, and it's so unsettling. And it's crazy too because I walked into this one girl with a ponytail who I thought was Abby, but then game blindsided me because her hair was cut off. She's actually over here, and I find her, and she's surprised because she's like, "It's you, it's Ellie," and she cuts her down because she's just like confuses like what's happening. She's seeing a weaker state of this adversary.
she's confused, but she's also I don't want to say she gives no fucks, but it's like her focus after being drained and nearly dead, her main focus is just to save Lev. She
I think
processes that Ellie's there, but she's like, okay, thank you. But also you're not you mean nothing to me right now. Thank you for saving me, but
I think
I
there's
need to save Lev.
I think there's like two points of view. Is like when Ellie
Okay.
sees Abby hung up, I think she just has this big confrontation in her brain that's plagued her for so long, and she gets there and she's just like, "This is it," like this is it, um, which is nuts. But then also Abby gets Lev down and just carries him around. Abby even tells Ellie like, "There's some boats over here." Didn't have to tell her that, did anyway.
Yeah, because she's not even thinking about revenge at the moment, or
Yeah,
she's not even processing that Ellie would want revenge.
it's like that's all they want. Like they're alive. They can
Yeah,
get
they
out of
want
here.
to escape. Yeah, she's not even processing that Ellie probably wants revenge on her. She's just like, hey, let's just get that guy out of here.
Yeah, it's probably just like a chance encounter because obviously like a year has passed. So they get to the boats and it even gets to I for some reason I was briefly thinking, are they gonna get on the same boat? But they start diverging into separate boats and I was like, I would be so impressed if this actually remains like this is it and they just do actually go their separate ways. But
But that's not The Last of Us for you.
I think Ellie has another image of Joel in her brain of getting
She can't get him out of her head.
so she turns around just like gotta fight and like Abby's just trying to untie the boat and she freezes for a moment but then she goes back, she's like, I'm not gonna fight you, and Abby and Ellie's just like, yes you are, and throws her down, and Abby's still denying not gonna fight her until the knife to Lev's throat.
Says like, fight me.
Yeah, and it's like fine, and then you have to enter this bare-fisted fight even though like Ellie is slicing like Abby's like elbows all the time. Eventually you lose that and it's just fist to fist, and it's
And that's where Abby has the upper hand, and she starts pounding on Ellie too.
yeah, because even if she is, I think Abby was a bit more malnourished. She's still very strong,
Yeah.
but yeah, Ellie's just trying to go through, and again, Ellie's weakened through the side. Fortunately, they're not a dyad, so they ain't working. They were, oh my god, but they're fighting, and
But then one of my best parts is towards the end of the fight where Ellie starts to drown Abby, and then Abby.
I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know if like a trippy thing was gonna happen because Abby's face starts to like meld out of focus, and I was like, what if she sees Joel's face? Like,
Yeah, but she sees her face. She
she
sees
does?
Ellie's. That's how I pictured it when I finished the game. I'm like, I think because she can kind of see her reflection through the water, and as Abby's face gets out of focus, Ellie's face becomes in focus in the water reflection.
And even before that, which is so gruesome, like Abby resiliently fighting back, bites off two of Ellie's fingers.
Yes,
Just one. I was like,
brutal.
where are the rings? Like,
brutal. But yeah, and then the fight concludes, I think, there where
lets her out.
She tries to drown her, but she just can't do it. This is not what Joel.
She breathes. She just like she's sitting there, even though she's like feeling her fingers in pain. She's just in such anguish, and she's just like.
Is that when we go into that final flashback? Is that when the final flashback activates with Ellie?
I think while drowning, she sees
drowning.
She sees a more peaceful Joel.
Yeah, Joel on the porch with the guitar. Yep, and that's it. That shakes her out of it.
Yeah, and it's just like
that's not what Joel would have wanted. That's not what Joel wanted. He wanted Ellie to have the best life possible. That's all he wanted. No matter what happened, he just wanted Ellie alive.
Absolutely. And then says just go, and Abby does trek away. She's not doing any final words. She just needs to get Lev safe. And they're just going off in the distance. And as used in my thumbnail, Ellie's just sitting there
in the water,
defeated, and there's just nothing. And
beautiful shot.
Another example of if it ended there, I would have been pretty profounded, like Clone Wars style. But
it doesn't.
No, we go back and we're back to the house, and the first thing you see is a close up of like the couple nubs with the rest of the fingers, and it's just like, geez, that is so brutal.
She can't play the guitar anymore.
Yeah, that's another thing. You go into the house, and it took me a second to really realize, like, oh my god, the house is empty.
Yeah. I knew as I was walking up there, I'm like, I'll be shocked if Dina's still here.
I was just thinking, like, I know Dina isn't gonna be here, but maybe like we can reconnect back in Jackson. But then we go upstairs, all of Ellie's things are still there, which is always a bad sign. Uh, but yeah, the guitar's there and she brings it out, and it's heartbreaking that she can't play the same proper tune anymore fluently.
No.
She's only got the 2-finger press to strum, which you can eventually learn to fix that to playability, but that's going to take a long adjustment. And that's
in the moment, though, it's a consequence. This is what happened. Yeah,
and it's one of her last connections to Joel she has to like learn that song, and
she leaves the guitar. How do you feel about that? That was interesting.
Well, it was interesting just from the fact of like where the whole last scene ends, because like I said, we entered to the flashback that we gushed about. Then we return back, and she sets it down by the windowsill, and all we see is her walking off into the forest. We're not entirely sure where things are going to go. I know, reading her journals, just to get clear of mind, she goes out hunting, but she's just walking off, and I don't know where things are going to go from there. And the game just ends, and it's just
perfect ending.
And I think it, like, I feel more hopeful at the thought of seeing that Joel Ellie flashback right before that.
Me too.
Because if you don't have that context in the way we're talking, that's just
the game fails completely.
Depression.
Yeah. That final flashback ties a great bow to the game. But yeah, I think it's a perfect ending for Ellie. I think she leaves Joel's thing behind because she has to but she has to leave Joel in the past in a way. She still carries Joel on within her heart, within her memory, of course. That's never going to change. But what is going to change is Ellie's plan for her life in the future. Because her whole meaning, as she complained to Joel, was like lost because of Joel's decision in the first game. Mm-hmm. So in this whole game was all about Ellie trying to find meaning through this kind of revenge plot or story. So then for Ellie's future, like, what else is going to give her meaning? Like, I think, I'm hopeful too, Nathan. I think she's going to look for Dina and JJ as well. But yeah, hopefully she can find meaning in her life. Hopefully, in wherever she's going, she can find forgiveness in Dina, and I think she will.
Absolutely. And real quick, I want to talk on what you may think a progression for a Last of Us 3 could go to.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I think once you finish the game, you see a boat, and I think that's not Dina. I think that's Abby's boat. I think she found the fireflies. Now, like I just said, Ellie's now looking for what could give her meaning after both of these, Last of Us Part 1 and Last of Us Part 2, after all those events. So what if in Part 3, Abby confronts the fireflies? And what if she says, I know a girl who is still immune, the only girl who is immune? What if they come in contact again with Ellie? And what if Ellie has to grapple with that? Because does Ellie now embrace what she was missed out on because of Joel's decision? Or does Ellie decline now because she had this experience with Joel? Then she says, like, I don't want you anymore because Joel wouldn't want that for me. I think there could be a lot of interesting stuff there.
Can you imagine how powerful of a trilogy ending it would be for Ellie to make that sacrifice for the world?
Both ways. Like, what if she says no and what if she says yes? Either way, I could see Ellie making a compelling decision either way.
Absolutely. I'm not entirely sure. I would imagine if I were to bring up a new central conflict to pursue to keep Ellie's course of action going, I would probably chalk it up to Tommy is still pissed and looking for Abby, and I think maybe through an semblance of aiding with the raising of JJ, that maybe thinking back on that with somebody like Lev out there could put a little bit of a guilt plague on Ellie's mind for that too, to maybe try to prevent that action from coming through. And I think there could be a great central conflict of a Ellie versus Tommy, of the factor of, I lost my brother all because of you.
Whoa.
Which...
that would be heartbreaking, yeah.
Would, for sure, but compelling.
Compelling too. So yeah, I think either way, there's a lot of material that could go for a Last of Us Part 3. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that's good, but that's about 3 hours. So
crazy, yeah.
Effectively broke down the whole game.
We totally did. I just closing words. I just want to say, like, I love The Last of Us Part 2 so much. The more we just talked about it for freaking 3 hours, and I think this game is definitely my favorite game of the year. It would be hard for any game to beat this, but it's one of my favorite games I've ever played. Top 10 probably now. Just like the first one. I think the first one is a perfect game, and this one is also near perfect. I love it so much because revenge, people are like, oh, it's just a revenge story. Revenge is not the story. Or revenge is, yeah, it's definitely not the story. It's the plot, but it's not the story. The story is about forgiveness. It's about consequences. It's about the path that people take on grief and forgiveness. And it's very ambitious. I've never played a game where half the game you're playing as a person that killed one of the most popular characters in video game history in Joel. And it's all about perspective, is understanding. People have to understand that Joel's not a great character, not a great person. There's a lot of what's it called? Introspection that people have to do within themselves to understand the world, understand the mindset of all these different characters. And I just love that this whole narrative really has, it's really challenging, and I just loved it all. I loved all of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think real quick to chalk up, my actual favorite scene was one of the discoveries you can make in the game that you can actually miss is
yeah,
they're in the old music shop, Day One Seattle, with Ellie and Dina, and Ellie sings
Stay
quiet.
on Me?
No, it's a quieter rendition of Take on Me.
Take on Me. Yeah.
By Alma. And it's so beautiful.
I cry every time. Yeah.
Not only because I love that song, but just Ellie's singing of it and singing to Dina and just their existing love. It's so beautiful. It probably is my favorite scene in the game. Then I put the Joel Ellie Porsche scene. But yeah, I love love. So
me too.
What a phenomenal game, masterpiece, I say.
Masterpiece.
I'm sure it will age well in time. Don't look at that.
I totally think so too. Yeah.
So I'm super pumped to see personally get into other Naughty Dog games, the Uncharted franchise, no doubt. So that'll be fun. In the meantime, though, I need to play Ghost of Tsushima. So
me too, man. Me too.
I will say though, I think my top video game, like my top 3 video games I've ever played in regards to base story that impacted me personally, have all been PlayStation exclusives. Actually,
what would they be?
Personally, Spider-Man PS4, I think had a phenomenal ending with similar with it's like the opposite choice that Joel would have taken.
Yeah.
Look at that PlayStation. I put Last of Us 2 in there. I think I enjoyed it phenomenally more than the first game. And also Detroit Become Human,
which I still haven't played. Yeah,
it's so great in the fact that it very much is a choice-based game, that all the choices matter, and there's so many diverging paths you can take on so many different storylines, and you follow 3 different characters that converge stories. It's very important, very phenomenally done. It's one of the best games I've ever played.
Awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, that about wraps it up here. I will go ahead as normally, outro it and say, Evan, where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. As I was just playing it today. I haven't played it in a couple weeks, but I was playing Last of Us Part 2 to trying to get my platinum.
Alrighty. Yeah. And as always, you can find me here on the channel, and you can find me, Evan, and Carson. He hasn't as caught up on the video games, but he's always around for other forms of small media like movies and television. Small, but yeah. We normally on Wednesdays go live for general film talk on My Cup of Tea, and Fridays Hyperspace Hype, which we will be debuting a new logo. But if you want to catch that now, you can see it on our Twitter. I doubt this plug is going to do anything because we're 3 hours in. But on the off chance, if you did enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe if not already. And that being said, I hope you have a great day, and may the force be with you